high on their own supply here and be like, oh, Gen Z defined by Nick Fuentes clip compilations, Aiden Ross, and Andrew Tate. Remember, they're going to grow out of it. You were fucking cringe too, okay? We all went through our different phases, okay? And many in the Gen Z will also, not just the Zillennials, not just the older Gen Z, which we also bring into the millennial fold, okay? Because, like, come on, guys, I've hung out with Maylot. She is spiritually Zillennial. She is spiritually millennial. I'm sorry. You can't act like she's a normal Gen Z person, okay? Okay, can I just say, the democratic socialist movement that many of you are very excited about is objectively a millennial movement, okay? Even the older, the Zillennials, the older Gen Z need to fucking recognize that. You understand? That's all I'm saying. Like, millennials on top. This is my whole life. I've been embarrassed to be called a millennial. I've always said Faillennial. But honestly, Faillennials are putting numbers on the fucking board right now. And yes, Maylot is spiritually also Faillennial, despite the fact that she's 29 years old. Okay? She's a Zillennial and therefore a Faillennial. We went through 2016. We went through 2020. We saw the Bernard run. We saw so many defeats in the last decade. But through resilience, through steadfastness, through tireless advocacy, the Faillennials rose to the challenge and are now meeting the moment. Okay? That's it. That's it. Many of you Gen Zers who have said heinous things on the internet under the guise of anonymity don't understand how much your elders currently are fighting for you and your rights as posters. Okay? Think about the Daria Lisa campaign. Think about the attacks that she withstood. Okay? Think about the attacks that she withstood. Now, imagine your anonymous social media profile, if you were to ever run for office or any position of power, what that would look like, what your social media profile would look like. We have to just white knuckle through this process so that we can chart a better path forward for all of you. Okay? We're crawling so you can walk and then maybe run one day. You understand? We're pushing through the boomer dam that has held on to entrenched power for far too long. We're brute forcing it so that you guys one day can unseat us. Okay? When you see the elderly millennials like myself at the age of 34 doing all this stuff, I don't want to hear the slander about how we're boomers, how we don't get it. Okay? We're doing the damn thing. We're doing the damn thing. Yeah. A democratic socialist born in 1997 just beat a Democrat who first took office in 1997. Respect your elders, Gen Z. We're doing the damn thing for you, okay? For all of us. And for the record, before the fucking millennials get a little too high on their own supply here and be like, oh, Gen Z defined by Nick Fuentes clip compilations, Aiden Ross, and Andrew Tate. Remember, they're going to grow out of it. You were fucking cringe too, okay? We all went through our different phases, okay? And many in the Gen Z will also, not just the Zillennials, not just the older Gen Z, which we also bring into the millennial fold, okay? Because, like, come on, guys, I've hung out with Maylot. She is spiritually Zillennial. She is spiritually millennial. I'm sorry. You can't act like she's a normal Gen Z person, okay? Like, when people think of Gen Z, they think of, you know, people who have fried their brains because their most formative years leading into adolescence and adulthood were during COVID, okay? We're defined by the lockdowns and we're defined by, you know, watching the worst of the worst content and having that shit fucking penetrate their collective consciousness. If you're on the cusp, you're a millennial. When people think of millennials, they think of Pete Buttigieg and Mallory McMorrow. Yeah, I know. In any case, I don't really care about generational politics. This bullshit, it's reactionary. You already know it's counter-revolutionary behavior to focus on generational politics. What we care about is the immortal science backed by dialectical materialism, historical materialism. You already know, okay? We only care about class divide, and nothing else. This is all jokes. When we're talking about like the difference between millennials and the difference between Gen Z, all this stuff, it's just jokes, not serious. You're literally been doing generational politics for 10 minutes now. HasanAbi, what are you talking about, Unc? Okay, calm down. It's just jokes. I'm just memeing. Yeah. Let's get started here from 9 News. Progressive challenger unseats.
Victory parties and concession speeches. Coloradans made their voices heard, and most of the race results are in.
Last night's results setting the stage, of course, for the midterms this November. That's when we'll vote for the state's next governor, among other races. Some of the House races could determine which side of the aisle takes control of Congress in D.C. this fall. Thanks for joining us here at 7:30. I'm Drew Carney.
And I'm Corey Rose. We have team coverage tracking the latest from the key races and what it all means as we head into November. Let's get right to 9 News reporter Courtney Yoon with the latest from one of the most watched races in the state, House District 1, and history was made here, Courtney.
Yes, that's right, Corey and Drew. It was the end of a decades-long run in Congress for one candidate. Political newcomer Malat Quiros unseated Democratic incumbent Diana DeGette. DeGette served 15 terms in Colorado's 1st congressional district. That's about as long as 29 and as old as 29-year-old Quiros. So Quiros celebrated her win last night at the Broadway in Denver. She kept an early lead before the race was called around 10 p.m. The first-time candidate and Democratic Socialist pledged to refuse corporate PAC money. She's also aligned herself with emerging candidates across the nation who are running as young, bold, and unbought. CU Regent Wanda James also ran to unseat DeGette. She conceded at 9 p.m. last night. Quiros has been endorsed by Senator Bernie Sanders. DeGette had support from Colorado's established Democratic House delegation. Quiros faces criticism from some members of Colorado's Jewish population over her strong opposition to Israel's occupation of Palestine. Here's her response to critics who've accused her of anti-Semitism.
My commitment has always been to protecting the sanctity and dignity of all life. That includes every single person of all faith, all different religions, and that especially includes the Jewish community, especially now as anti-Semitism is rising all across the state and all across this country. And I look forward to working with the community to figure out how we can combat that hate.
If elected in November, Quiros would become Colorado's first Democratic Socialist elected to Congress. It marks a shift towards more progressive leadership in one of the state's most reliably Democratic districts. Live in Denver, Courtney Yoon, 9 News.
By the way, the chirpers that said this is a New York thing only have now, of course, moved the goalpost to, this is a plus 30 Democrat district, of course, like she's going to win there. Like, goalpost moved instantly, okay? Before they were like, oh, this only works in New York. Now they're like, well, this works in every blue city, but it only works in blue cities. And then next up, they'll say, okay, this only worked this time. It was a fluke, okay? So remember, we're just going to keep pushing through it, right? Yeah, what happened? I thought this was just a Zoran only thing, right? I thought this only worked because of Zoran. It turns out, it's not a moment, it's a movement. It turns out it's not about one guy. Of course, Zoran has, been an incredible movement leader, right? He's done a fantastic job to build that momentum. But what have I been telling you? What have I been telling you? Okay? All of this is just proof in the pudding. This is literally my theory of change in action. I don't need to fucking beg people to pay attention to it anymore. Now people are paying attention to it. But what's crazy about it is that they're paying attention to it, but they're still trying to take the wrong lessons, okay? They are refusing to learn the right lessons here. They're trying to derive the wrong lessons out of this. With Zoran, they did it too. They said, oh, he's just charismatic, once in a lifetime. He's got a great smile. He's got a great social media team. All of those things are true, but it wasn't because of that. It was because he had the fundamentals. He had the policies and he had the legitimacy. Okay? You have to have the policies and you have to be able to communicate those policies in an honest manner. Did you hear Chapo glaze you yet? No, I still haven't heard Chapo glaze me yet. I've listened to some of the conversation they were having. They were clowning on Daria Lisa a little too much, okay? I don't like it. We've all cringe posted. That's my girl. Anyway, but yeah, to be cringe is to be free, okay? That's all I'm going to say. It's the same with your involvement in general. If the candidate wins, you did nothing. If the candidate loses, it was all your fault. They can't make up their mind. I mean, yeah, my involvement is look, you can go and ask the campaigns what they think about it, right? and you will hear what the truth is, right? And some people have. And you've already seen it. So it doesn't matter. You are a part of it in many instances, right? So it doesn't matter what the fucking outsiders say. We know what the truth is. And ultimately, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether people recognize my impact or not. I don't give a shit, dude. What I care about is putting numbers on the goddamn board. Okay? What I care about is putting numbers on the goddamn board. What I care about is electing socialists, electing fighters, putting them in office. Do you understand? What I care about is building this movement. For years and years, I filtered this audience into the Democratic Socialists of America for a decade now. Okay? And you see that. You see that in the victory party for Zoran. You see that in the victory party in Denver for Maylot Quiros. And you see that in the victories itself, right? Sounding more like Kobe than LeBron. I don't know what that means because I'm not even taking credit for it. I'm saying we've been doing the work, and not just myself, but like these organizations have been doing the work, especially, okay, for the past decade with limited success. And the job is not finished. It's just beginning. So, you know, it's utterly irrelevant. It's utterly immaterial what people say. By the way, endorsement tracker updated. 2026 endorsement tracker updated. Contested races. Zoran Mamdani, 100% win rate, 3 wins, 0 losses, 1 contested win. AOC, 83% win rate, 5 wins, 1 loss, 1 contested win. I'm 67, 6-7, 10 wins, 5 losses, 6 pending, 2 contested wins. Working Families Party with 22 wins. It's crazy. And Justice Dems at 13 wins, 4 losses, 7 pending, 2 contested, 76%. Bernard Sanders, Papa Bernard with 10 wins, 3 losses, and 3 contested. Now, of course, the irony here is that the best way to go about this is when all of these endorsements and all of these movements work together, right? And there are certain instances where like you can't really do that. Like with Bernie. Bernie couldn't do that with Gonzalez, right? Which we're going to be talking about in a second. Like the leaderboard that I want to look at is Jules Nader. Yeah, that's what I want to see. Update. Quiros will exceed Hamawi's margin based on the remaining votes. She might even exceed Rab still too. This result once again shows the power of the combination of Hasan the Hun and Dem socialists plus key leftist leaders. Let's go. Yeah, this is the real tracker. Okay, this is the real tracker because it shows that when there are, you know, key leftist leaders, when there are key leftist leaders like Bernie or AOC, or if it's regional, if it's New York related, then Zoran, but most importantly with the DSA, you know, I don't think there's a single race in the entire country where like the coalition of forces in some way, shape, or form haven't gotten together, right? And then we build the movement by expanding on the momentum. We build the movement by doing what? Clara Valdez was phone banking for Oliver Larkin. Maylot Quiros was endorsed by Daria Lisa, right? This is something that the Justice Democrats does behind closed doors, very quietly. This is part of the reason why I was always on board with Shoykat's run, even if he didn't get the national attention from any of these other groups, any of these other institutions, any of these other organizations, right? Rab was out there immediately expanding on this victory that he put down. This is how we do it, because we have nobody else but ourselves, okay? We have only ourselves to rely on. No one else is coming for us. If anything, they're coming to stop us, right? Daria Lisa was at the phone bank too. No paper endorsements at DSA. What is this? You're amazing, but I really think the crux for the DSA has been marketing. Even as leftists in the Portland, Oregon suburbs didn't see outreach and guidance on politicians, the message is solid. It needs a megaphone. Yeah. Gonzalez dropping out of that rally with Quiroz was a bad move. Yeah. I mean, I'll talk about that in a second. Also, credit to Shoykat for bringing out Daria Liza and Melat for his San Francisco rally with you. That was huge and showed he's on the right track. I mean, yeah, that was big for them too. This was very impactful, right? This was a moment when they needed as much media attention as possible. And that's not my assessment. That's like literally their assessment, right? Like these are the opinions of the campaigns and of the politicians who are now going to be elected into Congress. Like they've said that. The Atlantic dropped the new DSA hit piece like 45 minutes ago. I know there's going to be more. The hits are going to keep coming. But you know what's interesting about this? I'm not so lonely any longer. Okay? Back in the day, I was the sin eater. Now they've realized that it's a movement. So now they're trying to spread it around. So at least I won't, selfishly, I'm not the only person that they're yelling about. Okay? Sorry. But you guys can deal with it. Many of you that are in the DSA, many of you that have maybe even worked on these campaigns, some of you that have run for office at this point, you've already seen me go through this process. You've already seen me go through the motion the last decade or so. You know what it looks like. You know it doesn't fucking matter, right? So you just have to be more emboldened and you have to be courageous. You have to be brave and you have to keep pushing. It doesn't matter. Yeah, Linda Sarsour thanked me. And she's the OG tank, right? Linda Sarsour is someone who, Linda Sarsour is obviously Palestinian. She's been pro-BDS, pro-Palestine her whole life. And she's been punished endlessly for it. And I was talking to her about this last night where it's like, I was like, remember 10 years ago? Like, would you ever think when you were at the Women's March, because she was one of the leaders of the Women's March. I was like, think about it 10 years ago. Think about the attacks that you withstood. Think about where this movement was 10 years ago. When how much people will yell at Rashida, how much people will yell at Ilhan Omar, and how little people would come to their defense. I remember I was there. I would be fucking freaking out on every single person that would dare to call these unbelievable heroes anti-Semitic. And it would come from all different avenues too. It would come from different angles. It would come from supposedly progressive figures as well. The Democratic Party would leave them out to dry. They would hang them out to dry over and over again. Yes, I say it all. I say this. I rip on plenty of Mao's quotes, but this is one of my favorite ones. To be attacked by the enemy is not a bad thing, but a good thing. Of course. I hold that it is bad as far as we are concerned if a person, a political party, an army, or a school is not attacked by the enemy. For in that case, it would definitely mean that we have sunk to the level of the enemy. It is good if we are attacked by the enemy, since it proves that we have drawn a clear line of demarcation between the enemy and ourselves. It is still better if the enemy attacks us wildly and paints us as utterly black and without a single virtue. It demonstrates that we have not only drawn a clear line of demarcation between the enemy and ourselves, but achieved a great deal in our work.
With all of our friends that we're sending with you, because what's beautiful now is people are not going alone. You're sending a whole class full of them. And so I'm just here because I like to be in places where winners are. I know I might have been a little cocky after New York Knicks won their championship after 53 years, but I want to be where the winners are. And I know the winners are also where Hasan is. And I just want to say this really quickly on Hasan because I'll be on the record. If this man is the most hated man by the Democratic Party, make sure that you know I'm with Hasan Piker on this one. Because Hasan can sit somewhere on his little Twitch and do what he twitches, whatever that is, because I'm old, so I don't know what he does, but he does something important. But he also comes outside. He's been helping our candidates all across this country, using his platform for good, to be an extension of our movements, and I want you to get your credit for that, Hasan. And actually, I like when you're on the front page of every paper, because that actually helps us, just so you know. So please, just for us, let him hate you, it's okay. It's actually doing something for us.
It's true. It's true. I've been the sin eater for the longest time, and it felt a little lonely. I was a magnet of hate. But now this movement is growing, and it's becoming so undeniable that people are paying attention, that it's not just like one person, right? It's not just one person at all. It's just there's so many of us. So many of us out there pushing for the same cause.
We could not have been more lazy.
You guys did more for like that lady in Los Angeles. Like you had her on like 5 years ago, and she was running for city council.
Yeah.
The one who's the election against Spencer Pratt.
And, you know, just like I know his name has come out of Fetterman's mouth too. But if you're gonna credit someone for this or blame them for it, we got to give our boy Hasan credit, because like he was in New York City more than I am. He was out in the streets of New York more than I was over the last fucking month or so. He was doing like 90,000 people phone banking for DAC.
Yeah, he was talking about them like constantly, like on his stream. There's some guy who like followed him to like watch him play like the Elden Ring DLC, who has to hear him talk about like the primary for New York's 13th congressional district every day.
Oh man,
it's the back, like as recently as 3 years ago, nobody gave a shit about any of these races, but now it's like it's a primary election for a midterm is like prime time shit. They got like Steve Kornacki bringing up the board for like a special election in Tennessee. There is so much just interest in this. So thank you, Trump. Thank you.
I'll just note one other opinion piece from the Wall Street Journal. This is by Matthew Hennessy. Headline: Unleash Fetterman on the DSA.
Unleash him. Unleash him. Poof. Imagine Hasan playing a game still. Okay, shut up. All right, I'm going to pee real quick.
Speaking momentarily after a victory party tonight in Denver. The 29-year-old corporate attorney turned barista has defeated Democratic Congresswoman Diana DeGette, ending one of the longer careers in Democratic political history. DeGette held that seat for 15 terms and rarely had a challenger. This year, Malat Quiros pulled off what was long thought to be impossible, and she has changed Denver's Democratic Party structure and Colorado politics in doing so. Let's listen in.
Tonight, this victory belongs to every single one of you. Denver voters of all ages, of all races, of all religions sends a clear message. We will not wait! We will not wait to take the fight to Donald Trump and the oligarchy. We will not wait! We will not wait to abolish ICE and pass Medicare for all! We will not wait to put an end to the politics of the past, to get big money out of our politics, and to reject corporate PACs and AIPAC. And no, we will not wait to end the genocide in Palestine. We believe that fundamental change can and will happen if we fight for it. If we organize and show no fear in standing up for what's right. That is the message that Denver has sent to both parties, to Donald.
That was millennial. That is millennial coded. That is millennial coded. I won't lie. I won't lie. The air horn is crazy. The air horn is crazy. That is millennial as hell, bro. Beer, 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 beer.
Trump entire country. I want everyone in this room to take just a moment and look at the people around you. Strangers to you just a year ago, just a few months ago. But tonight,
it feels good to win, baby.
Tonight, together,
it feels good to win.
You are all something else. Tonight, you are proof. 1 year ago, a lot of experienced people told us this was impossible. They said you can't win without corporate PAC money. They said you can't beat a 30-year incumbent. They said the establishment and the oligarchy is just too big and too powerful to overcome. That's what they said. But 1 year, 6,500 volunteers, 1,000.
I didn't do that.
115,000 doors. 500,000 calls later. You are the proof that the power of organized people beats the power of organized money. I have to take a moment and thank every single one of you in this room, to every single person that has volunteered, that has supported this campaign, to Justice Democrats, to Denver DSA. To the Working Families Party, to Sunrise, to our incredible team, Matt Group, Rebecca, Howard, Susie, Ellis, Marissa, Lauren, Bill, Jackson, Jay, Ethan, Deep, Sarah, Casey, Michelle. To every single volunteer who knocked on a door, who made a phone call, who talked to your friend, who talked to your coworker, who talked to your neighbor, and made—
No Unk mention? I know. It's bro, it's done. Fake. It's over. Friendship ended with Maylot. No, Hasan, thank you, sus. Have you worked with Working Families Party? Of course, I've worked with Working Families Party in the past, and most likely will continue to do so in the future. Sure, there was a little bit of friction in the New York race, obviously, but outside of that, the Working Families Party has played a formative role in New York and many other races as well. He got mentioned earlier. Nah, I'm washed. No mention. No mention.
Made a choice to believe that a better world is possible if only we fight for it. I want to take a moment to acknowledge Congresswoman Diana DeGette. I am grateful for her service.
Damn, she thanked me and not you. Feels bad while Bunhole gets the thanks before HasanAbi. Listen, we work real G's move in silence like lasagna, okay?
And her fight for
I'm only in it for the glaze.
reproductive freedom. She helped build the community that welcomed my family to this city and to this district, and I'll always be grateful for that.
Maylot Kuros mentioned in an interview today she thinks of you as a coworker and not a friend. Coworker wig. Once again, Chudwig strikes back.
And I want to thank the one and only
Maylot Kuros said she would not go to my funeral.
Senator Bernie Sanders for his support. And to every single progressive running. And to every single progressive running for office in Colorado, across the country, across this state, for inspiration, for solidarity. Tonight we saw wins down ballot. We saw Cello win. We saw Iris win. We are winning from coast to coast, every level of office. We are taking back our party and our country.
I didn't do that.
I want to tell you something about why this campaign matters, because it matters for what comes next. When I wrote a letter defending students' rights to protest the genocide in Gaza, my law firm told me, take it down or you're fired. I didn't flinch because I stood by every word, and I always will. But I know that will not be the only moment where those in power will tell me to change my tune, to not rock the boat. That seems to happen a lot in Congress. But here in Denver, we stand by our values, and we stand with our community. We are days away from embarking on the 250th anniversary of the founding of this country. I've been thinking a lot about what that means. The promise is made, the promise is unfulfilled, that this country belongs to everyone who loves it and what it stands for, not just the people born here, not just the people who look...
As a radical centrist, I'm deeply disturbed by this hate-filled speech. It reminds me of Zoran's hate-filled victory speech. Yeah, I agree. Talking about... Is this true? If so, wild full circle moment. The law firm that fired Melat Kiros for speaking out on Palestine is where the Obamas first met. Wait, no. Could not have contrived a more on-the-nose plot twist regarding Zionism and PMC racial politics when I wrote this 2 years ago. The rise and fall of baby boomer Zionism. Zionism has long been the tip of spear aimed at the heart of the multiracial left. Local news mentioned in Denver last night. Wait, we already saw this.
They weren't not only down when those older, maybe more...
We saw this already. Yeah. They put out a concession speech.
I want to congratulate Melat Kiros for her victory last night, and I want to wish her...
Bro, last night she was like, oh, it'll take a couple days for us to know the final results. It didn't take a couple days.
All the best in her future. I also want to thank Wanda James for her years of involvement and service to this community. Thanks to all my friends and supporters who have lifted me up in all of my years in public service. And thanks to my intrepid campaign staff who fought until the bitter end to get our message out. Job number one is standing up to Donald Trump and protecting our democracy. And along with thousands of constituents, I want to thank all of the staff from my congressional office, both Denver and DC, for consistently serving the residents of the 1st Congressional District over the years with commitment and compassion. And I want to thank my family, my sisters Kathy and Kara, and my brother Rick and their families, my wonderful daughters Rafaela and Francesca, who have never known a time when their mom was not in elected office, and whose families keep them strong and centered.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a basic concession speech. It's expected. Also, The Atlantic has continued New York Mag's tradition of not fact-checking Jonathan Chait's lazy, error-laden columns. Chevalier won a primary for Congress, not the State House. He also misspelled my name. This is not his first article he's written about me, by the way, so it's kind of crazy that he's still misspelling my name. Hasan Piker, who is one of DSA's most influential advocates, has campaigned for several of the candidates it has endorsed, said recently at an event, I wish they'd stop calling me a radical. None of these people, he said, gesturing to the crowd off screen, are radical. They just want healthcare. They want an end to American militarism. They want to spend money on roads, on infrastructure, on schooling, on healthcare, rather than bombs overseas, which I assume Jonathan Chait followed that up with, he is actually a radical and a terrorist, and here is why. Okay? I suspect that article that he wrote follows it up with, no, he is actually a radical. He is actually dangerous. He is actually, he's in support of, yep, here it is. Yet Piker himself has followed the DSA's militant line, repeatedly praising authoritarian regimes such as China's, Cuba's, and Russia's, as well as terrorist groups such as Hamas and Hezbollah. He has said that his closest existing model for an ideal society is China, which does not have progressive social values or especially generous welfare state, but does have a communist ruling party. I like that there is no nuance afforded to this analysis, especially considering that in that interview, I described the many criticisms that I have. I have never praised Russia, by the way. It's ironic that they say that. Doesn't really matter. It's bullshit, but nobody gives a fuck, right? And as far as the interview that I did, where I said the closest existing version, as far as the economy goes, the closest existing version of what I would like, as far as like responsive politics, as far as a centrally planned economy, would be the Chinese system. And the results speak for themselves. 800 million people lifted out of extreme poverty, unbelievable levels of rural development that has taken shape in China. That is what I would love to see in the United States of America. But there are certain concepts in the Western world that I grew up with, that I maintain is profoundly important. Due process, free speech, and things of that nature are very important to me personally, right? I'm glad you're clarifying this. Dog, I clarified this in that interview. In that interview. Okay? I want our spending priorities to be centered around the needs of the working class. I want to improve the working class material conditions. Okay? These guys know, or many of them don't even know, but ultimately none of them care. Especially when he says he's praised authoritarian regimes such as China's, Cuba's, and Russia's. Like, what do you mean I've praised Russia? I have not praised Russia. I don't think the Russian kleptocracy led by former KGB agents turned oligarchs as a consequence of the shock doctrine deployed, the liberalization that destroyed the post-USSR Russia. I've never showered it with praise. Why the fuck would I do that? They think the Crimea River clip is Russian exceptionalism. I know, it's so funny. Would they always be like, oh, you said Crimea River? It's like, big dog. Big dog. My position on this, albeit sometimes a humorous quip where I say Crimea belongs to the Tatars and therefore it's Turkish territory first and foremost, is utterly immaterial to what has already taken place. Okay? And it's always people who are pro Greater Israel project that try to go, oh, it's hypocritical. You think I have an ownership stake in the same way that you feel an ownership stake in the Greater Israel project? You think I have an ownership stake in Russian irredentism? I don't. I just want there to be a diplomatic process seen through so that more and more Ukrainians are not fucking dying. That's been my consistent position since day one. It's the same for Israel and the IOF against Hamas, where I've demanded a ceasefire over and over again. And it's the same thing that I've demanded in the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the illegal invasion of Ukraine. People holding on to Crimea as this like choke point, as this like pivot point, are holding on to nothing. It's so strange to me. Anyway, Putin bat ticker required. A Ukrainian just got charged for blowing up Nord Stream pipeline by a German court. Yeah, I don't even think that was one random Ukrainian that did that. That's crazy. There has never been a moment where I've justified the illegal and immoral invasion of Ukraine. Not once. And it's so funny that people still run this lie over and over again. Yeah, take it up with Biden, take it up with Obama. They were the ones who also did not choose to advance the defense of Crimea and instead recognized Sevastopol as an existing Russian military base, which it was, and thought that the Crimean annexation and the way that they dealt with it, which was without a single shot fired, was objectively very different than the current Russian invasion and occupation of eastern Ukraine. If we can't make these distinctions, then we're being ridiculous. Anyway. You absolutely did support Russia and defend its invasion. You did it when I made it up in my head. I know. People will still push that line. Why is Dylan Burns mad at you? Because I think for a lot of these guys, some of them are very passionate and it's understandable. Okay. But for a lot of these guys, the way to advance their own personal grievances Maybe I made them feel small. Maybe I made them feel silly. Who gives a shit at the end of the day? But that's what it is. There are a lot of content creators who will use like existing global conflict where hundreds of thousands of people are dying to advance their own personal interests. Also, I am objectively anti-NATO. So I think that's probably part of the reason why many of these guys are pro-NATO. I see NATO as an extension of American force projection capabilities, as an expansion of an extension of American empire, which, by the way, it's not just my assessment. Mark Rutte has openly admitted that that is precisely what NATO is, right? I'm in favor of diplomacy. So I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people will just like use anything and everything they can, because having a reasonable argument, having a reasonable conversation around what NATO is doing and what NATO has done is obviously not going to be favorable for a lot of people. I think it's far more defensible than many aspects of capitalism, by the way, from the perspective of like, you know, being a bulwark against Russian irredentism, which Vladimir Putin has straightforwardly proven, right? It is real. It's a real fear. It's an understandable fear. I'm not going to lie, your analysis had a good friend of mine call me stupid because I said Russia was definitely going to invade Ukraine. I didn't think so, and neither did the Ukrainian government at the time, because no one expected Vladimir Putin to be that fucking crazy. Anyway, let's see what Sean Hannity had to say.
Mayla Kiros wants to upend our way of life, replace that with what, a Soviet-style socialist, system. Step one, getting rid of ICE. Step two, making all illegal immigrants citizens. Take a look.
What's your vision for abolishing ICE?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that we abolish ICE. This is an agency that started in 2003. We had immigration enforcement before ICE existed. We'll have it after it exists. But the thing that I don't think we talk enough about is also what that reform is going to look like. Abolishing ICE is just one step, right? Democrats have been in power multiple times over the last few decades and did nothing to address the immigration reform that we actually need.
Expenditures, increased spending.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think there has to be an immediate pathway for every single undocumented immigrant that's here in this country today.
Now, you might have noticed that many of these socialist lunatics are kissing the ring of a guy by the name of Hasan Piker. Now, this is a rich kid turned socialist podcaster who loves communist China.
Shawnee baby. We were supposed to have a little tete-a-tete. We were supposed to have a convo in person. I was going to come to your compound in Florida. Shawnee baby. Why are you talking about me, but not to me? You stop responding to our emails, Sean. What the hell? What the hell? His cheeks keep getting fatter every day. It's so funny. I don't know why he's getting so bloated.
Communist Cuba, but seems to not like the USA. In fact,
at least unlike Jonathan Chait, he's saying I praise communist China and communist Cuba and did not say I praise Russia.
In fact, he once proclaimed that we, the U.S., deserved the 9/11 terror attacks, and sadly, Mayla Kiros seems
and that
to
he
agree
hates
with
this fucking country so much. Wait, what?
This. Take a look.
Was 9/11 an inevitable consequence for America based on U.S. foreign policy?
This is such a crazy thing to still, multiple decades later, advance as though 9/11 was just randomly a thing that happened because they hate us because they ain't us. This is established at this point. Okay. I don't understand what the argument is, man. It's been 25 fucking years, dude. When can we finally acknowledge that American destabilization led to 9/11? I'm not even alone in this. This is one, an issue where there is academic consensus around, and two, even the people that were the godfathers of the post 9/11 global war on terror, the neocon movement, the people who were pivotal in using 9/11 to advance their own agendas in the Middle East, unironically have already acknowledged that 9/11 was a byproduct of our destabilization that led that went on for decades before 9/11. This is something that most Americans understand. This doesn't mean 9/11 is good, by the way. It's just analysis. Okay? That's all this is. Where is it? Oh, here's Glenn Greenwald. The level of willful blindness and emotional immaturity when discussing the 9/11 attack a full 25 years later is stunning. The U.S. wasn't chosen randomly. Of course, decades of U.S. violence and dominance in the region played a significant role in the attack. Forcing people to pretend this isn't true out of some solemn reverence for this attack is repressive and deceitful. It would be like saying that Israeli violence and repression played no role in the October 7 attacks. Even the CIA has a doctrine to observe this causal relationship. It's called blowback. Also, a very famous podcast by a friend of the show, Noah Colwyn. Okay? And Brandon. Identifying the cause of X is totally unrelated to the question of whether X is justified. It's good to see that these dumb attacks are losing their potency, as the candidate who said it, Maylot Quiros, basically won a congressional seat last night in Colorado, defeating a worthless Democratic incumbent, pointlessly filling that seat for 30 years. Sex Pestiny is threatening to kill you, by the way. Yeah, I know. I mean, what else is new? That's not new, by the way. That's not new. He's been doing that. He does that every couple of months. If not, it increases the frequency in which he does that. You're lucky your ops don't know the true source of your power. Yeah, that's true. An army of witches casting protection spells at all times is what holds my career up. Okay, but like, are you taking it seriously? What am I supposed to do, man? Actually, I don't. Like, I mean, oh shit! Sean Hannity addressed his cheeks. Thanks to everyone who has checked in. I've already addressed it several times on my radio show, but while training, I developed a painful pinched nerve on my neck. My doctor put me on prednisone to reduce the inflammation, and while it's helping, it led to laryngitis and some puffiness, which is normal for this medication. I'm fine, recovering well, and still training. But apparently a few weeks of prednisone has generated more social media commentary than 30 years of rating success. I appreciate all the concern and well wishes, including from members of the left-wing media. Sorry to disappoint them, but a pinched nerve, a raspy voice, and a puffy face aren't taking me out anytime soon. Yeah, he was training his knees so he can sufficiently please the big dog Donald Trump. Hey, Sean. It has been months since you offered to debate me on your show, then pushed it back. Asked to push it and stopped answering my team's calls indefinitely. It's time to talk to me rather than about me. Is that good? Call him a hamster? Maybe he's challenged. Yeah. That's true. Hey, Sean Hannity, it has been months since you challenged to debate me on your show, then asked to push it back indefinitely and stopped answering my team's calls. since you issued a challenge to debate me on your show. That's good. If he wants ratings better than his puffy cheeks, he should have you on. True. He's on injury timeout. I wish you a speedy recovery. Okay, that's good. He's not carrying the flame? No, it's fine.
Now, Maylot Kiros wants to.
All right, let's continue.
Inevitable in the sense that we destabilized a lot of the Middle East, that forced people to believe that another act of violence was the only response.
Now, there is one thing that these communists hate more than America, and that is the world's only Jewish state. That, of course, would be Israel. In fact, Kiros was fired from her job as a...
That's awesome. I love when these guys immediately hit that line and they're like, they very clearly are they very clearly are criticizing the world's only Jewish state. How dare they? It's like, okay. I don't know if you know this, Sham, but so are many other Americans. As a matter of fact, that's like the overwhelming majority of American positions on the issue. So I don't know who this is for. I don't know what's going on here. You know?
A corporate attorney due to an obsessive...
Yeah, they said the same shit about South Africa. It's the only white-ruled state on the African continent. Like, it doesn't matter.
Public hatred for Israel. And apparently she thinks, quote, the Jews of Israel had it coming on October 7th when thousands of innocent men, women, and children, they were murdered, they were kidnapped, some were beheaded and abducted. Take a look at this.
After October 7th, it felt like there were very different responses to what had happened. And, you know, I mean, everybody remembers, right, being on social media, seeing like some of the ways people were talking about Palestinians at the time. But I remember being on LinkedIn and like seeing other lawyers just like celebrating what they were seeing in Palestine.
He just claimed that was a quote. Yeah, I mean, he's just playing fast and loose.
The leveling of Gaza and the, you know, just complete destruction. And I was like, what is missing from this conversation where I could look at this as, you know, an inevitable consequence of apartheid, of occupation, decades of occupation, and somebody else could look at what Israel's response was and say, no, that's what we need to do. They need to be leveled.
Now, Kiros has also called for an embargo on all defensive weapons to Israel, including ammunition for the Iron Dome. It would seem that she, you know, only has room in her heart for certain people.
Dude, it's just funny. Like, again, I think these guys are playing with fire when they reveal these positions on Fox News. Like, you're quite literally telling your audience that Maylot Kiros is unironically more sincere about the same exact demand that Donald Trump made when he was running for the presidency and won on that campaign promise. Isolationism, America first, reconsidering all of these, like, all these weapons contracts that we have with all these other countries that are just like destabilizing the entire planet. That is what Trump ran on. That's what Trump won on. They play your stream clips like it's ISIS Salafist propaganda. I know, but the difference is I'm wearing a suit talking to a person who is going to be the next congressperson from Denver. It doesn't hit the same. You can't just present us as like these crazy guys who are, you know, militant and in our defense of Islam and want Islam to take over the world or whatever the fuck, you know? Shout out to the one Fox viewer that made that connection. I think we got to give people more credit, especially at this stage. Especially at this stage, a lot more people are done with Israel. You know what I mean? Including Republicans.
Especially if they are trans children. Take a look.
I wrote all of our policy page a year ago now, but we're updating it this week. And some of the things that we're adding in, there's also a trans bill of rights. It is, I think, incumbent upon us to be proactive in this fight. I think we've been on the defensive, and I think there are Democrats that have even considered abandoning our solidarity and our advocacy for the gay community, particularly for trans people and trans kids. And for that, I would say then you're not a Democrat.
Now, like every other socialist that's running, Malat Quiros espouses a set of truly insane ideas designed to completely destabilize the country and make life worse for everybody. The goal, destroy America from the inside out and replace our country with a communist utopia. By the way, if successful, I promise you, there will be no utopia. There will be suffering. There will be broken promises. There will be pain. There will be more poverty. And at the end of the day, a loss of freedom in the name of false security. Now, it's way past time for Democrats who still love America to stand up against these communist bullies. But the Democratic Party is full of nothing but power-hungry, moral cowards at the moment. And sadly, but for John Fetterman, patriotic Democrats are now few and far between. Take a look.
There is such a polarization, partisan split on this issue, the largest that I've ever seen. Just take a look at this. This is where it really gets interesting and I would dare say a little bit nutty. How proud to be an American. You know, among Republicans.
I think it's just stupid to, like, this is to demand stupidity. Okay? Like, I want to be proud of America. And there are certainly concepts that America has defended, even though the Trump administration is trying to destroy them, that are great, redeemable. We should be proud of them. But there's plenty of things that America has done that, we shouldn't be proud of, right? We have this legacy. We should be honest about it. We can't advance American society. We can't change the American trajectory if we don't acknowledge some of the existing issues and some of the issues of our past. So when these guys on Fox News say, oh, these guys aren't proud to be American, what the fuck? It's like, dude, we want to fix these problems, okay? America has tremendous promise. America has tremendous potential, but we're just casting it aside. We're throwing it away at the altar of profit, at the altar of super profits for a handful of parasitic capital owners that don't have any loyalty to America or, more importantly, to Americans or anybody else. It's that simple. That's why I always say, like, look, America, the entity, is one thing. Americans is an entirely separate thing. And in most circumstances, America, the entity, operates at the behest of capital. And therefore, it operates in an antagonistic manner to Americans, the American working class, the overwhelming majority of Americans that have been left behind.
93% are extremely or very proud. Just a single one say they have little to no pride in being an American. But look over at the Democratic side. This is where we've seen this extremely or very number. It's been taking a tumble at 27%. But look at this. The little or no proud to be an American actually among Democrats eclipses is greater than the extremely or very proud number.
What has happened to this once great party known as the Democratic Party? Not that it was ever great, but is anybody really surprised?
Wait, what happened to the great American Party, also known as the Democratic Party? Not that it was ever great. What the fuck?
This is the Democratic Party. Not that it happened to this once great party known as the Democratic Party. Not that it was ever great.
Why did you say that then? Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, what happened is Sean Hannity ate the great American Democratic Party. Not that it was ever great.
But is anybody really surprised? This is the result of what
Sean Hannity's hiding the Democratic Party in his cheeks.
There's decades now of Democratic leaders, academia, the media mob trashing our great country day in, day out, year in, year out. Take a look.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great.
The American flag is such a complicated symbol for most of us, and in many ways, like Jesus, like the cross, it's been co-opted and in some ways its true meaning has been betrayed.
No, 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 not God bless America, God damn America.
Wow, what a flashback to my goat. Jeremiah Wright, the legend.
It's in the Bible.
Founding fathers did not live and die for this moment. I can't celebrate July 4th.
We tired. We want some of this earth. Or we'll tear this goddamn country up.
And making America great again.
By the way, it's so funny to put Farrakhan and then Pete Buttigieg. You know, guys like James Tallarico, Pete Buttigieg, and Farrakhan. Same guy. Oh, that's awesome. Oh. It turns out the Democrats are truly the big tent, the biggest of tents. No tent is as vast and as large, as spacious as one that features Louis Farrakhan and Pete Buttigieg.
That past that he has promised.
I think that might literally be the entire political spectrum. Okay, I don't even know where I could place Farrakhan because sometimes he's on the far right, sometimes he's on the far left, right? He's a much more complex figure. It's difficult to fully comprehend what space he occupies on such a rigid spectrum. He's everywhere all at once, but it is hilarious to have Farrakhan up there with Pete fucking Buttigieg, dude.
To return us to was never as great as advertised.
I can promise you, black folks, we will take that day off. We will barbecue because we off. But black people, that nobody black I know is really excited about the 4th of July.
Everything they're doing runs against making America great. Well, it was never great, so I'm not going to say the again part, but
Now, this America-hating monster the Democratic Party now created for political gain is now totally, completely out of control. And as Obama's anti-American pastor, the once, famous on this show, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, once said, America's chickens have come home to roost. All right, thanks for watching. Check out my new...
God, I'm gonna be honest, dude. This is my favorite shit to do. Like, the victory is sweet, but the true nectar is the delicious tears of reactionaries the next day, okay? Victory is fantastic in and of itself. We're advancing a cause. We're putting people into key positions of power. But God damn it, I love Hogwatch so fucking much. I love it. I can't get enough of it, dude. It's the best kind of tears. Oh, how delicious the sweet nectar is of reactionaries crying about socialism growing in this country. We must put an end to it.
It's not just for the Big Apple anymore. Democrat socialist Malat Quiros beating longtime Democrat Congresswoman Diana DeGette in the Denver, Colorado district primary. Watch.
And to every single progressive running for office in Colorado, across the country, across this state for inspiration, for solidarity. Tonight we saw wins down ballot. We saw Cello win. We saw Iris win. We are winning from coast to coast, from every level of office. We are taking back our party and our country.
So could this be the latest sign that Democrats are losing their grip on the party? Our next guest has been telling us this was going to happen, that socialists would try and take over the party and then the country. Host of Politics in Perspective, Tom Del Beccaro. Tom, is the socialist spread officially upon us with this result in Colorado?
Well, it is, at least in the big cities. And we need to remember that these are candidates that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren to some degree support. So I know the Democrats are trying to say they're from outside our party. But remember, the theme of class warfare and tax the rich and...
Again, what a jump off, dude. Class warfare and tax the rich. Yeah, those two things are definitely the same. I guess.
or a wealth tax. These are issues that are embraced by Gavin.
Like what these guys mean when they talk about class warfare, obviously, is like, you know, gulags for anyone making over like $100,000 a year or whatever hysterical nonsense they believe, right? Obviously, that's what they're referencing when they talk about class warfare. That's you know, it's hysterical, it's ridiculous. But it's really funny to then say class warfare and then turn around and go, it's taxes on the billionaires. This is ultra violence. Qantas poll, another beautiful poll came out on our boy Abdul at 41%, to Haley Stevens is 35%, to Mallory Gore is 7%, at only 15% undecided. U.S. Senate in Michigan. What can I say? What can I say, folks? Oof. Anyway, let's continue. We'll get to that in a second.
Newsom on the left coast and on Elizabeth Warren on the East Coast.
Elizabeth Warren. Yeah. James Talarico is one of the Texas Senate Democratic primary, defeating Representative Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett will be replaced in her district by Frederick Haynes. By the way, working with Frederick right now on doing something, possibly in Dallas, Texas. As you guys know, we are big fans of Frederick. We are big fans of the Reverend. He is fantastic. He's a phenomenal orator. And he is also going to be another incredible fighter, another Justice Democrat-backed candidate. So, it's Tex-Mex time, baby.
Josh got.
Oh, God. Okay, we'll do the Pod Johns. The Pod Johns are in this very funny space because, like, obviously a lot of the stuff that's coming out of the DSA is far too radical for their taste, but they're also, like, somewhat agnostic. Like, I'm like the bridge holding, you know, the commies and the socialists together with the Pod Johns to the best of my ability, and it's like it's being pulled. It's being pulled a lot. Okay? And it's interesting. The Pod Johns are just glory hounds? No, that's not true. I give them credit where credit is due. They were early on Abdul. Okay? Y'all are crazy. They were early on Abdul. Fairly certain that they were big Zoran guys too. Plus, there's, you know, Tommy and Ben Rhodes, Ben Hamas Rhodes at the Pod Johns. So there are people within the Pod Johns universe that are far more radical than John Favreau or John Lovett. Like Abdul literally had a podcast. It's like the Gucci bag. Let it go, man. No, I will never let it go. Dude. You need to understand something, okay? Let me cook. It's worked so far. Let me fucking cook. Okay? I don't know why you guys are literally in this very moment still doubting what I am trying to do. Okay? My position on this is clear. As long as people are not an impediment to change, they can chirp after it's over. Okay? I was a Pod Save gal for a long time. You're definitely a bridge from that universe. I used to listen to the Pod Johns and Brian Tyler Cohen. The Pod Johns are redeemable. Yeah. Some very bad people have said that exact same thing. Okay. Look. They say things at times that I vehemently disagree with, like the Daria Lisa criticisms I thought were, you know, I disagree, and I think it's unacceptable. But again, Pod Johns are far more agnostic, and they maintain a tremendous amount of influence over liberals, and they're far more agnostic to our side than the near attendants of the world. In many respects, they are the connective tissue between the near attendants of the world, which many of you understandably oppose and despise for good reason. It's understandable. But We need, this is a multifaceted approach, right? We have to exhaust all readily available options. Yeah. And they were, once again, and I think this is important to recognize, they were big pushers of Abdul from the start, right? Some of them at least. So I'm always going to give them credit. Yeah, no, this is me holding the Podjons in the coalition. Holding the Podjons in one hand and holding the radical left on the other, and just like, no. They're not going to be full-blown socialists or communists or anything like that. Okay, it's just not going to happen. But as long as they're not an impediment to further progress, they're not my enemy. I think I have a fairly reasonable approach to this stuff. Maybe it's because it's my approach, so of course I think it's reasonable, but the way I look at it is the same as anything else. There are a lot of villains. There were a lot of villains in American politics. And unlike the tendency of the left, I choose not to go after my closest associates and closest ideological allies, even if we are in opposition at times. But instead, the target-rich audience that is the rest of the political landscape. Okay? My only red line is when they try to rat fuck, which the Podjons never did, not even with Daria Lisa. That's why I got very mad at Progressive Victory and the Track Ukraine account or whatever, right? Because right before this election was taking shape, they came out and they were like, oh, we think your position on Russia is too ambiguous, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? I think that is a red line for me. That's the only red line that I have. If you, right before, yeah, they defended you enough where they could have just ate off these W's. Like my perspective on this is clear. If you don't engage in wrecker behavior, even if you don't, outwardly come out in defense, that's still fine. You might have your disagreements, but you're not an active impediment. I'll give you this. I'll give you an argument. Peltolta, right? Am I saying her name right? Alaska. She's not a progressive. As a matter of fact, she's a fairly conservative Democrat. Peltola, sorry. She's a fairly conservative, run-of-the-mill Democrat. If it came down to the wire and Peltola was the single seat that gave the Democratic Party the majority in the Senate, you think I'm going to be like, well, I don't know about her opinions on this or that. Are you fucking insane? Are you fucking insane? Okay? It's that simple. I've even made the same argument about Adam Schiff, my own fucking senator, right? My own senator. And he sucks. We're going to carry the flame today? You already missed it. I already did carry the flame today. I already did carry the flame today, partner. Hold on, I'm doing something. Sorry for the brief pause. Awkward pause, awkward pause, awkward pause. Hold on, hold on. Dude, I'm getting blown the fuck up. All right. Let's get back to this.
Well, as Hasan Piker, the far left firebrand, here's what he told Fox and said, it's just the beginning. Watch.
I think progressive politics, left populism, a politics that centers the needs of the working class can work in every district, in every state. That's why I kept saying over and over again, it's coming to a city near you.
Okay, Tom, but both you and Hasan actually said a key word in your answers. The word was city, because it's important to note that
I said district and state as well, if you want to think about the words that I was using. You know, I said district, I said state, I said every district. I didn't say just this district, I said every district.
John Hickenlooper, also in Colorado, but in the Senate, which is the entire state primary, actually fended off his progressive far-left challenger. So,
yeah. And I think it's important to recognize what took place there, right? It's important to recognize what took place there, which we are going to be talking about with respect to the Senadora, the campaign that didn't make it last night.
What does that tell you about the real potential for this to grow? Is this just a city thing? Have the states said, we're not going to go so far with a senator? What say you?
Remember in history that the cities are always more liberal than the countryside, but it starts somewhere. So London was more liberal than the countryside, but the Labour Party grew eventually throughout the country. So this is a coming thing within the Democrats that is spiraling a bit. But I'm not saying it's going to be accepted in Indiana tomorrow, but it is a warning sign for the Democrats today as a party. The country sees it on the horizon.
Switching gears to a race involving one of these far leftists. Going to Maine now. A new Fox News poll on the Maine Senate race shows that Susan Collins has a small 3-point advantage over Graham Plattner. But more of Plattner's supporters say they are extremely motivated to vote this November compared to Collins. Tom, you well know you chaired a state Republican Party out there in California. What should the Maine State Republican Party do with that information with this latest Fox News poll?
Well, remember that Susan Collins has made a living off tight races and seems to win each particular time. This is an off-year presidential election, which tends to favor the...
Mike looked at this poll as bunk. I know. Well, we'll cover it too. It's so strange, by the way, that like Neera Tanden and all of those are like, they're describing Jeet's reverse Mao. Time for a reverse Mao. First take the cities, then the countryside. Okay. You know what's funny about this, by the way? This is literally the Bolsheviks. Like, yeah, this is just called a proletarian revolution, spearheaded by Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, also known as Lenin. So that's not wrong. There's different. Look. There's many ways to skin a cat, right? That's the statement. I've always found that to be a weird thing to say, but that is the descriptive. Actually existing socialist experiment that led to the USSR. So, you know, Lenin. Hold on. Yeah, it's just any socialist movement in Western Europe of the late 19th and early 20th century. Yeah, the DSA does rely on city activism, not because the cities are more left, but because that's where DSA activists are concentrated. Got to get those numbers up. No, I think the other reason why is also because the cities have, better public transit in comparison to rural areas, okay? That is a huge part of this. That's why if you look at the state of California, the places where the DSA was most active was San Francisco until it got fucking eviscerated by the tech neo-feudal overlords. Okay, it's density. That's part of the reason. Because look, the proletarian revolution or revolutionary organizing in the aftermath of the Industrial Revolution took place at the assembly line. When you're packaged together, it's much easier to unlock class consciousness. It's much easier to immediately recognize the antagonism between yourself, your fellow workers, and your bosses. Okay? Density is almost a requirement for this kind of organizing to take place. That's part of the reason why, you know, the American working class has never gotten off its, never been able to fully create like a national revolutionary movement or a network. That, and of course, the unlimited barrage of attacks from Capitol owners. But that's a huge part of it. You have to be around your fellow men and women to recognize how similar your interests are, how similar your class interests are. And that's part of it. It's part of the problem in America. It's really hard to organize in suburbs or especially in rural areas. It's too far apart, too few shared experiences, too much conservative interest in property ownership. Yes. Density is a secondary factor. The big deal was the fucking lecterns who are unironically the 19th century Twitch streamers. Yeah, this is the Pravda, baby. Straight up. In some ways. I mean, I don't take myself that seriously, but it can work. It's just we have to be the third spaces. We have to build the third spaces, and we have to be the third spaces. We have to get together and congregate and recognize our similarities, no matter how far apart we seem from one another. Okay? That's it. The unfortunate reality for many in the heartland, and especially in the Deep South, is that third space, that place of community, is mega churches led by psychopathic evangelical televangelist pastors, right? And that's probably part of the reason why a lot of that communal organizing in places like that come from the church. And a lot of the people embody the racist attitudes of the church. Okay? This isn't to say all churches are the same. Obviously, they're not. But there are plenty that are fucking crazy. That's it.
Party we know, but interestingly enough, Todd, these races in the city show low turnout among Democrats. So it's possible that the big blue wave isn't really that big because of these low turnouts. But if I'm in Maine, every single vote's going to count. There's no question about it. And people need to understand Graham Plattner's positions in addition to the manner in which he draws art.
Oh, it's great. Yes. Yes. Please understand Graham Plattner's positions. Oh my God. Fox News, please, I beg you. Please, 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 please talk about and expose the nasty positions of Graham Plattner all the time on your broadcast 24/7. That would be so horrible.
On his body.
Sure. Duly noted. Tom, appreciate your insight this morning. Thank you, sir. All right.
All right.
Be sure to like and subscribe. Nice to see David out of his suit.
Radical socialist surge aims to dismantle America, Laura Ingram says. Let's go.
Collar unbuttoned a little bit. All right, President Trump's visit, meanwhile, comes as the socialism surge spreads west. A far-left congressional candidate who called 9/11 and the October 7th attacks on Israel inevitable has knocked out a 29-year incumbent in Colorado. Our chief congressional correspondent, Chad Pergram, is reporting live on the Hill. He's got an update on all of that for us. Hello, Chad.
Sandra, good afternoon. Diana DeGette has served in Congress since 1997, but 29-year-old Milat Kiros beat DeGette in the Colorado primary last night. It's the latest swing to the left by the Democratic Party.
We will not wait! We will not wait to abolish ICE and pass Medicare for all! We will not wait to put an end to the politics of the past, to get big money out of our politics, and to reject corporate tax. And no, we will not wait to end the genocide in Palestine.
Democratic socialists have racked up wins. They knocked off two incumbent Democrats in the New York primary last week. The left has a vision for the country which diverges from what mainstream Democrats have pushed for years.
Some progressives that are winning. They're winning on platforms like Medicare for all, universal health care, universal child care, raising the minimum wage. And the reason that Donald Trump has to pivot from saying socialist to saying communist now is because socialism is actually quite popular.
Republicans oppose radical ideas advocated by the left, but in a strange way, the GOP believes this could actually help their party hold the House. Republicans say the progressive agenda frightens the very voters Democrats hope to court.
We're no longer in a battle.
Yes, Pramila Jayapal did endorse the GET quietly, like right before the election. It's okay. She's former head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, had to defend her, former caucus member. It is what it is. It's fine. It's the Pramila Jayapal cycle is what they're calling it. Okay.
Between Republicans and Democrats arguing over marginal tax rates or the size of regulation. This election and this year and the arguments and the things that are happening in Congress right now is a contrast between people who love the country and its founding principles and those who have open disdain and hatred for them.
Now, these Democratic socialists will likely win their seats this fall, but the question is if Republicans can nationalize the election. That could make it hard for Democrats to win in swing districts. Sandra?
Chad Pergram live on the Hill there for us. Chad, thank you. John?
All right, Sandra, let's bring in Laura Ingraham, host of the Ingraham Angle. Laura, it's great to have you with us this afternoon.
Great to see you guys.
Thanks for coming
She's my rep. We must primary. Pramila Jayapal. Okay, guys. Pramila Jayapal is not like Diana DeGette. Okay? Pramila Jayapal, sorry. Like yes, she has, her inconsistencies and whatnot, but that's crazy. Like she's definitely done a lot more as a actual progressive in Congress. What the fuck? Jesus Christ. Like, focus on better targets. There's definitely better priority targets instead of Pramila Jayapal. She literally just went to Cuba. You know what I mean? Are you sheepdogging, bro? No, she's not even pep. She's like been pretty critical of Israel too. Nowhere near as critical as others, but no, yeah, we have the momentum, which is why I'm not advocating the primary AOC. I mean, that would be crazy.
In a bit early. So here's how Politico Playbook described Milad Kiros' win over Diana DeGette last night. Quote, PhD student and part-time barista with no political experience taking on a 30-year member of Congress who outraised her 2-1. This socialist red tide was described by many Democrat analysts and specialists who I think were more hopeful than anything. It was described as
as a Palestinian constituent of hers who has personally met with her, I promise you she is not what we need to worry about now. Down the road, potentially, but not now. Yeah, she's like a fairly responsive and very progressive. Like, guys, she was literally the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Like, she actually is a far more progressive than the average congressperson. Remember, grading on a curve, right? Grading on a curve. Grading on a curve.
New York only phenomenon. Clearly, it is
she has the 12th most left voting record amongst like 400 plus people. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
No, I mean, remember in 2009, the Republican Party had its own eruption with the Tea Party. I was at a lot of those events. In 1979, Ronald Reagan shook up the Republican Party from the old guard, and he ended up winning huge, obviously. But this is their moment, and they're not messing around. They want the party to change dramatically from the old Clinton, even Obama era of, a period.
Why not, though? Do you think she would win, or do you think this would have some cost for races elsewhere? Why not getting a better representative where you can get? Do you like her? Do you think she's good enough? I think people like Pramila are so far above the rest of Congress in terms of their progressive legislative track record that exhausting already unbelievably limited resources on someone like that is insane. Like, I find that kind of stuff to be crazy because those are the types of people who would already caucus with and have already been caucusing with the existing, former members of the squad. Like, that's someone you don't go after first. That's someone you might not even ever have to go after, as a matter of fact. And certainly you would go after them last. This is the same principle that I maintain when talking about like the ACP or the people on the edges, like people who are more radical than myself, right? I always tell them like there's a tremendous opportunity to foment the revolutionary spirit amongst the working class. So why are you wasting your efforts here on those closest to you ideologically, right? Why aren't you going out to the countryside? Why aren't you going out and like trying to convert liberals, right? Like you're doing this here. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of air. It's a waste of energy. Like there are far better places that you could spread your initiatives to. And it's the same thing. It's like going after people who are not your ideological opponents at all, who have been your allies for their entire congressional legislative history is ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry, I'm not going to waste fucking time and effort trying to primary a congressperson that literally went to Cuba, okay? Amidst the blockade. You're ridiculous. Wake up, grow up. Focus your initiatives elsewhere. Pramila Jayapal is not your enemy, okay? Yeah, we got to primary Bernie Sanders, dude.
At least on the surface, to be more reasonable, not using terms like socialism or things like abolishing ICE. Old Democrats would never say that. They would say either we need a strong border or we got to reform ICE. But they've had enough of that, and they're going for political blood here. And I wouldn't just look to what's happening in Colorado.
Getting Adam Smith out before her. She's in the top 15th percentile of Congress.
Francesca Hong, who I believe also has a decent chance with zero real political experience or real world experience. And so this is their...
What is your real world experience? She's literally from the working class and has political experience as well. You just said that because you don't know anything about her fucking background. That's so stupid. That's so stupid. Plus, guess what? It turns out this whole political experience nonsense, ironically enough, was already defended on the Republican side. Guess who had no fucking political experience and became the president, and you love him? His name is Donald Trump. That's number one. Number two, another great example of this is someone who had no experience running a city as large as New York City, Zoran Kwame Mamdani. It turns out these kinds of seats are better occupied by those who are green, okay? Those who are occupied by green senators and green congresspersons, green governors, rather than those who have calcified in their lack of interest in making any changes whatsoever. Yeah. Political experience in this day and age is seen as a liability because for the last 3 decades or so, our trajectory has been downward. But Francesca Hong already has political experience on top of everything else. So it's ridiculous.
I think this is their moment. I do agree that Republicans have a massive opportunity to flip this narrative on them and really drive turnout because of what this will mean to our standard of living, our safety, our security, our border, all those basic things that most Americans, just common sense people, think we actually need.
Yeah, flipping that narrative, Laura, great to have you on, is clearly what we're seeing on the part of the White House and the part of the Republican Party. This was some of the interview with J.D. Vance on your show last night. Listen.
It is communism, Laura. This is not, this is not raising taxes a little bit, however much we might disagree with that. This is abolishing the police. This is let criminals run amok in your cities. This is flood your country with low-wage third world immigrants. And importantly, it's confiscating wealth, not because we want to make anybody's life better, but purely out of resentment.
Will Republicans get through to voters with that kind of messaging, Laura?
Well, I think so. I mean, look, you had Chris Murphy the other day, a senator from my home state of Connecticut, say, well, I might not agree with everything, essentially, but they're bringing a lot of energy to the party, and capitalism really hasn't worked in many ways for many people. I say to my old Connecticut Yankees, Colt Manufacturing, Pratt Whitney Aircraft, Electric Boat, Sikorsky, Otis Elevator, all the great manufacturing history of Connecticut. Now all the hedge funders and all the private equity guys who commute in from New York and live in Greenwich, are they ready to have their wealth confiscated in the end of capitalism? How is that going to work out for Connecticut? So I think in the end, a lot of Democrats may think, oh, this is great energy, but in the end, people vote with their feet. They're going to leave a lot of these jurisdictions, and this will be a short-lived phenomenon that I think could actually propel the Republicans to victories they might otherwise have really had to fight for.
Yeah, capitalism hasn't worked for some people, but socialism hasn't worked for anyone.
Anyone. Thank you, John.
There's always that choice as well. Hey, so again, this was seen as a New York-only phenomenon, but take a look at this. The number of far-left candidates who have won primary elections this year. I mean, that's enough to fill up a wall. That is a full 28-member MLB team roster. And what's interesting is that, back in the 1960s, there was a socialist surge, but no overtly socialist candidates ever were elected to Congress. This time around, things are far different because these people really want to shape the Democratic agenda.
Yeah, and I think the difference between like the 70s, where you had a lot of these anti-American movements crop up across the country, and a lot of them were supported by the old Soviet Union, remember? There was a lot of influx of support there. But you're right, John. I think now there's such a deeply embedded sense of anti-Americanism that has been inculcated in our schools. That has really had a profound effect. Republicans have been talking about school choice and revamping education for years, but the left's stranglehold on our public schools, many of our private institutions, our universities, then the influx of immigrants. A lot of these candidates are
God damn.
New are either the children of new immigrants, like of course from Ethiopia.
That's awesome. That's awesome. This socialism shit is all immigrants. Why is Adam Hamawi black and white, by the way? Incredible. Thank you. Thank you, Fox News, for doing the damn thing once again. Oh, this socialism stuff. The people that are actively fighting to make sure that you have public housing, housing for all, Medicare for all. Those are all bad. They're all immigrants. Also, Frederick Douglass Haynes III and Charles Booker being plastered on this alongside Chris Rabb as children of immigrants kind of gives the game away, don't you think? Really? Multiple generations of living on U.S. soil, descendants of slaves in this country that were stolen from their ancestral homelands and brought here by force. And then you just say that they're also immigrants. It's like, first generation immigrants. Interesting. Like, what a strange thing to say about black Americans, huh? I wonder what you mean when you say immigrants. It's also very funny to put fucking Bob Brooks on there and Brian Poindexter and Graham Plattner. Like, it's like, really, those guys, those are the foreign-born. Those are the foreign-born immigrants that are ushering in an era of communism in this country. Very cool.
Ethiopia or Uganda with Mamdani, Ethiopia with Kiros. So they come to this country, and it's not like the old days where you come here to love the country. You come here to be American. You come here to dismantle America. That's what's new here. And that's what the Republicans really have to work on next, which is a complete educational renewal and restoration about the greatness of this country with a clear look of, our ups and downs of history, our mistakes. But if you teach kids to hate the country and hate capitalism, that's not going to end well for America.
And clearly, Democrats have some work to do, Laura, when it comes to finding out who is the leader of their party or who they want to be the leader of their party. Axios, with this headline, Harris reaches out to Mamdani, pro-Palestinian activist, and run up to 2028. Harris and her team have also been reaching out to pro-Palestinian activists during the past year, including at least one who helped lead the Uncommitted movement, which grew out of opposition to former President Biden's policy on the war in Gaza. Is Kamala Harris making a comeback?
No, Kamala Harris is being Kamala Harris. I mean, she's never had an original idea in her life. She's always blown with the wind. There's no philosophical underpinning of the woman who is Kamala Harris. She was a creation out of San Francisco politics, and she rode a wave. And she rode a wave to the White House as vice president, was a disastrous vice president, was even a more disastrous.
I'm not saying anything, but I mean, clocking it a little bit. You know what I mean? Just a little bit. Just clocking her fucking tea a little bit. Okay?
Disastrous presidential candidate, and she's still trying to babble her way through interviews. I mean, I this is what I'm saying. I think the Democrats should go all in. Nominate AOC in 2028, and let's have this argument once and for all. Freedom and capitalism and American sovereignty, or socialism and redistribution and open borders.
All the good things or all the bad things. Just say what. Okay, I'm not. We're not bringing this back. We're not bringing this back. We're not bringing this back.
Let's have that debate, because I know who's going to win that debate, and it ain't going to be AOC.
So it seems, at least for the time being, a lot of establishment Democrats are kind of whistling past the graveyard about this insurgency. Listen to this short little montage.
Yeah.
We have a Big Ten party. That's what it says.
I'm all about new leadership. I don't agree with all their positions, but I respect what the voters have done in New York. That's not reflected in the entire country. Every district determines who they want. We may not like it.
Chris Van Hollen, we're a big tent party. That's what this says. Well, it's great to be a big tent until somebody pulls the center pole out of the tent and it comes down around you.
Wait, Van Hollen cracks me up, guys, because, I mean, these people couldn't get rid of Kristen Sinema fast enough, right? Bob Casey, pro-life, like, they're not big enough of a tent to accommodate anyone who is pro-life. And they will try to dump John Fetterman as fast as they can. So the idea that these people are big tent, you know what they are? They're scared. They don't have any solutions for the American people. Their ideas have failed. They're celebrating Obama's library. You know what his legacy is? Donald J. Trump. That's what Obama's real legacy is. They know it. They have no answers. Socialists come in and say, we have answers. So we'll have to have this debate all over again. I'm ready for it. It's exciting.
Hey, Laura, we hope you come back again soon. We'll see you tonight. Thank you so
Anytime.
much for joining us.
Great to see you both. Awesome show.
Awesome.
Thanks, Laura. Appreciate it.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
CBS News is projecting Democratic socialist Milot Quiros has won the Democratic primary in the state's first congressional district. The 29-year-old political newcomer defeated 15-term incumbent Congresswoman Diana DeGette. She is now poised to win this November's general election and become the first Gen Z woman in Congress. Quiros delivered a spirited victory speech to her supporters last night.
Denver voters of all ages, of all races, of all religions sends a clear message. We will not wait.
That sound, as I associate that with Gen Z. I know. CBS News congressional reporter.
Torian liked it.
And because he's a member of Gen Z. Yeah, he just did it. He's just like out there. Torian, you're on Capitol Hill. Yeah, let's talk about this. How big of an upset are we looking at here? I think I saw a stat that said that Quiros was like, I don't know if she was born or she was like in elementary school when DeGette was first elected to Congress.
Yeah, I mean, a 15-term sitting incumbent, to overcome that is quite the seismic shift, and potentially the political ideology when it comes to these congressional races. It doesn't necessarily spell the same outcome for statewide races, but I think it does, at least for this moment, explain the sentiment to shift the party further left. We also see this come on the heels of some pretty big upsets like Daria-Lisa Abilia Chevalier in New York's 13th congressional district race, unseating incumbent there as well. And then we also saw in Pennsylvania's 3rd congressional district race, Chris Robb, who is also another Democratic Socialist candidate who picked up the victory in his respective race there as well. Whether or not this spells where the party will move here on the Hill is another question. But these are kind of the same conversations that were had about AOC's wave of congressional Democrats coming in, also known as the Squad. Whether or not those progressive policies will resonate with the wider audience, I think, is the biggest question mark.
So last night, Torian, as you know, the co-chair of the Democratic Socialists of America discussed what they consider the appeal of democratic socialism on the takeout. Here's that sound.
In Congress, they are pretty fed up with the...
Dude, it's been so funny watching DSA folks all up and down mainstream media. It's awesome. It's fucking awesome. It's also been very funny to have the centrist Democrats reveal their true colors. It's probably not looking too great for Hutch right now. He endorsed Mallory McMorrow, if you guys recall, who just recently was trailing at like what 7% in the last poll that came out of the Michigan Senate primary.
Not especially close.
78% of the vote. United States.
She's like a 30-year incumbent, you guys. He's about to say, but she's been in there for a long time.
Representative since 1996.
Bro, they DSA'd a 30-year incumbent, you guys.
Kiros, who has lost.
What? How old is Malat? God damn it, I'm never going to get this name right. Melat Kiros. She's 29 years old. My goodness. This is a Star Wars name. Let's be honest. This is a name of just.
I'm sorry. What? This is a Star Wars name? Wow. Wow. Interesting. Bro came in hot. I love that reaction.
Some extra character in some saloon, in the Star Wars universe. This is a made-up name. That's another kind of humiliating loss, guys. I mean, it cannot be overstated. It cannot be overstated just how much the Democratic base right now is revolting against the perceived establishment, or just like the establishment. It's a real thing. Denver guy here, all of this makes sense because the people who were incumbents were, to quote, Hall & Oates out of touch. Interesting. The Marxists are coming. Yeah, true. I'm actually blown away at some of these outcomes. Hutch, how worried should I be? I can't. Listen, I don't think you should be that worried. It's kind of predictable. Like, we've seen this trend, this pretty consistent trend across the country where the Democratic voter base is just not satisfied with the Democratic Party. And so everybody's getting, like, all the incumbents are all like kind of, not all of them, but like, they're having a rough go of it. But again, we can reasonably expect that there will be about 6 DSA Congress people when the next.
Dude, who the fuck is looking at this guy for insightful analysis? I don't understand. I mean, I guess like all 30 people.
Congress with Democratic Party leadership that is not representing working class values. So we are organizing for policies that are popular with working class Americans all over the country, for higher wages, universal health care, to cancel student loan debt, and to redirect resources from ICE and militarism to meet our needs right here at home.
But Torian, as you know, a former DSA member was not able to overcome the incumbent in Colorado's Democratic primary for U.S. Senate. So is this Democratic Socialist message perhaps not connecting as widely as some may believe?
Yeah, Senator Hickenlooper is pretty popular, and I think he rested on his laurels, the fact that he has a larger name ID versus his primary opponent. As you can see there, he won handily against Julie Gonzalez, and he didn't necessarily have to preach about his progressive values to pick up the same constituency that got him in office in the first place. I think the challenge for these up-and-coming movements like the Democratic Socialists of America.
All right, so let's talk about Julie Gonzalez. Okay, so here's the problem, in my opinion, okay? Obviously, at this point, we've notched a couple of victories in not statewide races necessarily, but races in districts, blue districts for the most part. And one of the things that I have somewhat grown accustomed to is right now, for statewide electeds, especially in a state like Colorado, no matter how blue it is, there is still fear of the association with DSA. Okay? For Julie, it's a really interesting predicament because Julie Gonzalez has been a fighter, whether she was pushed by the DSA or whether she was on her own, invested in this cause, doesn't matter. Her track record was a lot more bold than the way she carried herself throughout her candidacy, throughout this election. And it was so interesting that even I called it out, if you recall, when we were having a conversation. So Julie is great. She's great overall. But I think it spoke to her instinct, because being timid in this moment and moving away from the left is not going to satisfy the right-wingers, and it's not going to satisfy the left either. So you end up losing your coalition that brought you into the seat of power. And it also kind of shows you as a wishy-washy or flip-floppy for no reason. Okay? for no reason.
I will.
Look, I mean, this was when I like directly tried to gently nudge her in that direction in this conversation, this interview.
Well,
can I give you some?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I'm seeing a lot of chatters. First of all, that don't know your background.
Sure.
That don't know the amount of time and effort that you've put in to all of these things that we're talking about, and you can start off by saying yes, and then continue with the rest of the. Because I know where you're coming from, but they don't,
Yeah.
and they're being dickheads right now, and I'm trying to get them to chill the fuck out as well, but. Just you can start off with a yes, and then explain it, which I feel like would be a little bit maybe would cause dummies in my community to be more understanding of where you're coming from. So here's the problem. That energy is something that people actually read into, right? And it's sad because when you look at Julie Gonzalez's background, when you look at her track record, at the state level, she's been a fighter. Whether she was being pushed to be a fighter due to like DSA and due to other people in her coalition, doesn't matter. Like she was out there and she was a champion for a lot of the causes that many people in Colorado would be on board with, right? The problem is her instinct, for one reason or another, maybe because she's running for statewide office and that's the reason why she was timid, but for one reason or another, she always spoke like there was a consultant in her head. Okay? Honestly, that is, I think, part of the reason why she lost this race when it was already a difficult race to begin with. She was not going to have many allies. I mean, Bernard is not going to come out swinging against a Democrat. I don't think Bernie endorsed her, right? But like, you don't have to triangulate. Now is the time to be bold, and it's the time to be brave. Because if you're not going to make it, you're not going to make it, regardless. But it's important to attempt to show your moral conviction. Now, people will be like, oh, this is a defeat for the Democratic Socialists of America. It's not. And it's exactly what I'm talking about when I say, like, she cast aside the DSA when she was running for statewide office, I guess because of her fear that a DSA association, the socialist moniker in statewide office, would hurt her. I think this is just how she talks. I think she did as good as she could have, to be honest. Hickenlooper is fairly popular, and she ran up the numbers in Denver. He also outspent 9-1 with some endorsements and more money. She could have had a lot more of a shot, yes. But I think one of her biggest issues was name recognition. Hickenlooper had all of it. She didn't have many of it. She didn't have a lot of it. And you can't be timid if you want that name recognition. You have to fight for it. Okay? I don't think Hickenlooper is popular. He just has name recognition. So you're wrong on that front. Okay? You got timed out by Fossabot because you wrote too long of a statement. I want to push back on the idea that support from the DSA would have changed Gonzalez's race. It was everyone's initial reaction last night, myself included, but the numbers don't support that. Within Denver itself, I'm not talking about Denver. And I'm not talking about just the Democratic Socialists of America. Okay? You're missing the forest for the trees. I'm talking about something beyond that. I'm using her unendorsement of DSA or her unaffiliation with DSA, allowing her membership to lapse, and then trying to like run away from that the ideological moniker and the baggage that she thought it carried, and what that says about her instincts and how she was running in this race. The only example I can use here is Abdul al-Sayed. Abdul al-Sayed is not a Democratic Socialist. He's never been a socialist, but he is a fighter. Okay? I'm not saying that the DSA's ground game is so good that it makes or breaks candidacies at all. I'm not saying that. There are, DSA has had victories, especially in this cycle, but there will be defeats too. My point here is not about DSA. What do I always say? The fundamentals are what matters. That's what makes or breaks a campaign. If you have a candidate that has the policies and also can communicate those policies honestly, right? Can communicate themselves as an honest. Hold on. Doors open. Okay. But can communicate those policies in an honest manner and show that they're a real fighter, show that they're a real champion for a real champion for the working class, then they can do that. Then people will respond positively to it. I think it's that instinct of shying away from DSA affiliations and being like kind of skittish about that background. It shows that your instinct basically is to try to moderate somehow. Even if you're like a very progressive champion of many progressive causes, like you were in the right place at the right time, you were ahead of the game. I think it's a waste. It was a waste to not try and go all the way, because I think voters look at vibes. Okay? They look at policies, but they also look at vibes. And on the vibes analysis, if they see you as being shy about your background, being cagey about your background, being cagey about your track record, I think that doesn't read positively. My impression from chat and DSA people is that they see this as proof that running with DSA would have won her race, but they just don't have the ground game outside of Denver where she already outperformed Quiroz to make that happen. Unlike what Deep said yesterday, there were no Quiroz Hickenlooper voters. Incredible coalition between Quiroz and Gonzalez. Denver's commie corridor is visible from space. Progressives also ran strong in the plurality, Black Northeast, Hispanic Southwest vote, splitting likely, though vote splitting likely helped Quiroz in the former. State candidates right now are still worried about adopting the banner of socialism. That's fine. We'll get there eventually. Okay? That's fine. We'll get there eventually. But my point is not that, like, if Julie Gonzalez says she's a socialist and people heard that and they went, oh my gosh, she's a socialist. I love that. I love socialism in fucking rural Colorado. That's not my argument at all. My argument is if you own it and you sell it, that's still far better than doing it and then running away from it. Do you see what I mean? Because people see that as insincere and people see that as playing politics. That's my analysis. That's my purely, like, no hard data, vibes-based analysis. Okay? And the only counter I can use is Abdul El-Sayed. Abdul El-Sayed, not a socialist, right? Abdul El-Sayed asked me to stomp with him. I said yes. Everybody started attacking him. And not only were they attacking him, they were attacking him in this like vicious way. They were saying he's an anti-Semite. I'm an anti-Semite. I'm a dangerous anti-America radical. He's running for statewide office. And part of the reason why that backfired is because I think if Abdul had gotten on that podium and said, I'm so sorry that I invited this dangerous anti-Semite onto this stage. I'm so sorry that I aligned myself with this radical anti-American guy, right? If he had done that, I think people would not have thought that he would be a fighter. It's not because I'm like a super popular guy and I can make or break a race, especially a statewide race in a state like Michigan. I'm not saying that at all. But the way you carry yourself is very important. The way you carry yourself is very important when you're running for statewide office, when you're running for different districts. Doesn't matter what position you're running for. And I don't think that you ever have to concede or capitulate on your opposition's framing. And if you show backbone, if you take a principled stance, I think most people will reward you for it because they see that as a different kind of politics. Okay? Yeah, head up, chin up, 10 toes down. And we saw it. We saw that be successful, right? This, on the other hand, like days before the election, where she was criticizing Melot Quiroz for declining to call Deadly Boulder firebombing, anti-Semitic. This kind of stuff will give you better coverage overall from mainstream media. They won't attack you, but that friction isn't bad. Okay? And we saw that friction wasn't bad. Look at Melot. She won, right? I think you have to be more steadfast. That's what I think. I think you have to be more bold, and you have to sometimes eat those attacks. Even if you're running for statewide office, you have to be proud of your accomplishments, stand by what you fought for, and also go on the attack against your opposition. You know? I canvassed a lot for Julie because I could tell from 3 weeks out that it was going to be a much harder battle. I had a lot more fun canvassing for Maylot for whatever reason. The Maylot energy was incredible among the volunteers. People that I talked to who knew who Maylot was, sometimes very negatively polarized against her, but nobody knew who Julie was. Exactly. That's part of it. That's an uncharitable reading of what she said. They called her and asked her if she agreed with the statement that it was not anti-Semitic, and she said no. She never said anything about Kiros. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. There's a reason why Julie Gonzalez did not get the name recognition that she deserved if we're judging her by her past, okay? It's because she was trying to play it safe because it's a statewide office, and she was worried that too much friction would have caused negative polarization against her. And I don't think friction is bad, especially if you have conviction, if you demonstrate courage, and if you have the capacity to do the same judo that Zoran was able to do, that even Maylot was able to do. I think that is the meta. That is the new method, and I don't think Democrats recognize that yet. I think some of the more progressive candidates, especially ones that are running statewide, have not recognized that yet. I think Graham Plattner did a good job with this. I think Abdul's doing a good job with this. And those who do a good job with the barrage of misinformation and smears that the media dumps on you, that don't stand by and say, I'm so sorry, I'm going to change my ways, all this stuff, and capitulate with the hopes that mainstream outlets will stop pummeling you. Those who just are steadfast in their approach and stand by their convictions will get rewarded for it. And of course, obviously, an AOC or a Bernie endorsement would have, a Bernie endorsement would have destroyed John Hickenlooper, for the record. I will say that. If Bernie Sanders came out and was like, Julie Gonzalez is my girl, she would be the next senator out of Colorado. So it's sad. But if you can't do it with Bernie and you got to do it on your own, that's my suggestion. The way you do it is by putting yourself out there and standing proudly with your moral conviction, with your worldview, and with the policies that you have advanced, with the power that you had in statewide office, right? That's it. Yeah. That's the energy that's out there, I'm telling you. And I haven't been wrong yet. People don't want a politician. We want sickos. We want fighters. Some Kiros, DAC, Zoran voters might not agree with all their views, but at least they seem like they actually believe in what they're saying. A lot of Trump voters also feel this way. Exactly. Exactly.
Have to appeal to a broader audience if they want these statewide races. But for now, it appears that establishment Democrats like himself could rest comfortably on just their name ID.
All right, Torian Small reporting from the Hill for us. Thank you, Torian.
Stunning losses in Colorado. State Attorney General Phil Weiser upsets Senator Michael Bennet in the Democratic primary for governor.
People want to know that they're electing someone who's in this work to fight for them, who they know cares about them. And the goal of our campaign was to break through. We broke through a lot of negative ads. We broke through a lot of noise because I believe in the power of people.
And then you had Milat Kiros beat a nearly 30-year incumbent Congresswoman Diana DeGette last night. Kiros, the latest Democratic Socialist to win their primary.
We believe that fundamental change can and will happen if we fight for it. If we organize and show no fear in standing up for what's right. That is the message that Denver has sent to both parties, to Donald Trump, and to the entire country.
Zolan, I want to start with you because back a few months ago when there was infighting in the DNC itself, there were all these people that were like, I'm taking my toys and going home, right? Like David Hogg, I'm going to go spend my own money. Justice Democrats, we're going to recruit our own people. There was this real sense that there was going to be money spent elsewhere by different recruiters for different reasons. And I want to show the viewers right now how well Justice Democrats are doing, as it turns out. Primary winners, I think I'm looking at a count of up to 8 faces here. What are they doing differently than the DNC?
Yeah, it's interesting because that fight over spending, I do think, represented a broader fight over the direction of the Democratic Party and who should lead them. And what we're seeing with this series of wins, the ones you just outlined, but also we're coming a week after
and those are in
Mamdani's
Colorado,
sweep
New
in
Jersey,
New York.
California, even Texas.
Right, across the country. I do think the themes in these races speak to they resonate with something broader in the Democratic base across the country, right? In the last presidential campaign, I would often hear from Democratic voters, they didn't feel people represented them. You just highlighted somebody who won a generational race, right?
Yeah.
She was born a year after the incumbent won her first race.
But with the views that come with that in some cases.
And that brings us to Israel as well. We have seen Israel and the issue of whether the Democratic Party will support U.S. support for Israel, that has resonated, both in New York and these races.
I think I'm also fascinated by that because what happened with Kamala Harris and Biden is they truly struggled to talk about Israel and Gaza when that fight was at its height. Then you have someone like Milat Kiros. I want to play one more thing from her, this Colorado congressional candidate who had a win, because she uses an argument that you wouldn't have heard from the Biden administration last fall.
When I wrote a letter defending students' rights to protest the genocide in Gaza, my law firm told me, take it down or you're fired. I didn't flinch. We will not wait to put an end to the politics of the past, to get big money out of our politics, and to reject corporate PACs and AIPAC. And no, we will not wait to end the genocide in Palestine.
So every key word that's a problem for Democrats and a problem especially for people who are concerned about the rhetoric around Israel, punctuated by an actual air horn. I want to play one more thing, a voter. And then, Antoine, I want you to talk out of this.
I like to see that she has more socialist ideals.
I think people are tired of our tax dollars being spent overseas and on bombs to kill children.
I'm anti-AIPAC, and so I just wanted to vote for someone that was standing up against Israel, and I knew that the incumbent was for Israel, so I voted against her.
People like Kiros and the DSA in general are presenting more like compelling arguments about how to make this country better for everyone.
Couple of things. We're having a generational conversation and an ideological conversation in these primaries. I think the common denominator is that people are frustrated, people are pissed off, and we collective Democrats are against Donald Trump and the Republican majority. How we talk about these issues has defined these primaries. But I will make the continued argument that the most important thing for Democrats to remember is 218 is the name of the game. You can talk boldly and loudly about all of these policies, but if you cannot govern, if you do not win, and losers do not legislate. And when we talk about the way that some of our more progressive candidates who are winning in deep blue districts, the issues they are talking about are going to require them to have to compromise on what they believe if they want to respond to what they campaign.
Or required you and the rest of the establishment? Because that's where the money's going to have to come from.
Well, I don't consider myself establishment. I consider myself just a Democrat. I think we've put these labels on folks, and I think that has been part of the somewhat division you see within the primaries. At the end of the day, when you go into the United States Congress, you're labeled as a Democrat versus Republican. We should anchor that there. But the second point is what we're seeing across the board. I think this is probably true in Republican primaries. It's easier to vote against something than it is to vote for something. So people are voting for who has been in charge and who they feel like are leading
Terry,
the party.
can I have you answer that? Especially to this point, I'm looking at, like, for instance, the post-response to the Supreme.
It's easier to vote against something than it is to vote for something is so wrong. Let me tell you, as a guy who's done both. Wrong. Wrong. It feels spectacular to push for something. Okay? I guess technically I've never really voted for something. I've just gotten others to be able to vote for something.
Supreme Court upholding bans on trans athletes. This kind of follows what he's saying. It's easy to say no. No is easy to put in a headline. It's easy to put in an ad.
No, that's exactly right, Audie. And I think that candidates like this that are more radical, where the mask has come off, they're winning in deep blue districts, right? Zohar Mamdani is not running in Virginia. He's running in New York City, and the same thing here. It's going to be interesting to see how these new, more radically left-wing candidates fare in terms of the upcoming midterms, but it's also going to be interesting to see how they change the coalition for the Democratic Party. When President Trump came on the scene back, 10 years ago, he changed the makeup of the Republican Party, and I could see a lot of these higher propensity voters.
Can I play an example?
Please.
Here's an example of someone who thrives in the Trump era. The Colorado candidate for governor on the Republican side. These are the kinds of questions and back and forth he's dealing. I just want to play this for the audience before we go.
Your campaign website falsely claimed that you had rescued more than 45,000 women and children. You claimed that you once called in a U.S. military airstrike that killed 70 ISIS.
I love this guy. This guy's the best. Dude, this guy is so awesome. He described in gruesome detail how his father made him kill a guy when he was like 7, I think. He's who Toby Durden wishes he was. Okay?
Fighters. You perform exorcisms, commanding demons to come out of people. Your claim that your abusive stepfather forced you to kill a man when you were 7 years old, is that the only person you've ever killed?
Well, I would say as a child, yes.
It feels like the takeaway for Republicans has not been radicals don't need them. It seems like it's like certain people are more than encouraged by the current environment.
I would ignore people like this.
Why? He's running for governor.
No, I know, but I'm from Illinois, right? And so what happens in these deep blue states where like Republicans basically give up on is
which is not Colorado, by the way. It is not deep blue, but go on.
Colorado's pretty blue, Audie. But look. I would look more to the states like Virginia, New
But then
Jersey.
why run a guy like that?
Look, because a lot of the serious people are not running in Colorado. If I was a serious candidate for GOP governor.
Not just run a guy, but he's leading in donations in that race as
well.
Look,
money, donors, probably not from Colorado, are giving him money.
And what I will say is that the people, the actual voters, they feel like both establishments are screwing them over. They feel like they're getting behind further and further. And that's the Democrats and the Republicans.
Dog, don't be ashamed. 39% of Coloradan Republicans voted for my goat. I'm confused as to what it almost feels like you don't like we got 2 consultants, 2 respective establishment centrist consultants for their own parties, and both of them, ironically enough, despise their own voters. You got the third way guy being like, oh, this socialism shit is terrible. It's out of control. Don't care about it. Don't care for it. It doesn't represent us. What we need is centrism. And then on the right, you have the same guy doing the same thing. Ultimately, what the problem is for both of them is this is who the voters are. This is who your voters are. Now, of course, you can look at that and go, well, this is just the same. Someone who is like advancing Medicare for all, it has like socialist policies, the same as the guy who said he assassinated hundreds of people and killed someone at the age of 7. If you want to be a fucking idiot, if you want to put the clown makeup on and be a clown, go ahead. I think most normal folks understand that there is no equivalence between these two, right?
Let's get right to CNN's senior political analyst, Mark Preston, for the latest on all of this. This is now something of a national trend we're seeing, Mark.
Well, you know, John, it's certainly not a one-off, and we've seen it over the past couple of weeks. There's been so much focus on New York City and Zoran Mamdani over the past year since his election, but we've seen that the progressive wing, the very liberal wing of the Democratic Party, is starting to push back against the establishment. If there was ever a generational shift in what we saw last night in Colorado, where Diana DeGette, who was considered a progressive in Congress, losing to somebody who is even farther to the left, shows you right now, as the Democratic Party has gone through 4 years of Donald Trump, again, has decided to push back against this anti-establishment. We've not only happened again in Colorado last night, we've seen it happen in Washington, D.C., we saw it happen in New York City, we've seen it happen in Georgia. We're seeing it happen all across the country right now. It's not a wave. Let us not tell anyone out there that it is a wave, but the fact of the matter is the Democratic Party right now is undergoing this whole transformation right now, and we're seeing these younger, more aggressive, progressive Democrats take on the establishment, John.
Yeah, look, you see an incumbent fall in a primary every now and then, but to see 3 lose in a week, that is remarkable. And you hear from almost any established Democrat, and they'll tell you this is where the energy in the party is right now.
No, it totally is. And, you know, this pushback by the progressive wing of the party didn't just happen overnight. This goes way back to the Clintons. This goes back to the 90s, where Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton pushed the Democratic Party more to the center. We saw Barack Obama come in. For 8 years, the Democratic Party was unified. They had something to rally around. We saw Bernie Sanders take on Hillary Clinton back in 2016. That was not well accepted by the Democratic establishment. We saw Bernie Sanders run again in 2020. Look, what has happened is that the progressive wing over the past 4 to 6 years has tried to work with the establishment. They've tried to work within the bounds of the Democratic Party, and it hasn't worked. And that's why we're seeing this pushback right now.
Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Melanie Zanona, and if it's Wednesday, we have election results. Progressives notching another big win in last night's Colorado primaries, part of a wave of Democratic Socialists winning in deep blue pockets of the country.
All right, I'm done.
Katie Zachariah is a strategic communications advisor for Trump Media and Technology Group. Okay, Katie, why aren't the Democrats fighting this off?
I hate hearing from people that are. Another poll. Peak Insights poll. Abdul El-Sayed 39%. Haley Stevens 28%. Mallory McMorrow 18%. Holy fuck, look at those favorables. Abdul El-Sayed plus 62. Haley plus 41. Mallory McMorrow plus 47. Interesting. Yeah, Mo Chachik had the insight into this karate pastor. Karate pastor, arms dealer named Victor Marx. He comes from a long tradition of ex-military Christian Zionist sex trafficker bounty hunters. He was also, for what it's worth, the first to tweet the news of the death of Charlie Kirk, who called him a spiritual mentor. The undercover story of last night's Colorado primaries, the cliffhanger GOP gubernatorial primary, where a 2-decade county commissioner who raised $600K is 1,300 votes ahead of a Pentecostal karate pastor, arms dealer, backed by Erica Kirk and Lauren Boebert. Lots of people are calling this comment sexist. Haley Stevens is a suit with a large APAC bank account. That's it. I hope maybe they can find some way to teach her how to string together 2 coherent sentences. I guess at some point, when you sell out for that many corporations and special interests, I guess you forget how to think for yourself. They're calling this sexist. That's awesome. Come on, man. Come on, man. What is it? It's sexism if you just oppose a woman. Like, it's, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, no, it's really sexist of him to be running against a woman. Fundamentally. Yeah, I read this interview already. It was awesome. They've also briefly mentioned me as well. Yesterday. Oh, Haley Stevens' mentality. I love this. This is, I mean, she's goated. She is goated.
So wait. You said you would get rid of the filibuster, but
you also want to use it. Which one is it?
I said I want to remove the filibuster.
Right, but then you just said you should filibuster what's going on with the deficit, right?
I'm saying that I want to change the rules.
Yeah.
I don't just bring my pocketbook size of the Constitution, Jen. I bring the full-size Constitution to the floor of the House, and I point to it, and I remind my colleagues about the oath that we took. And
Israel comes to me in my dreams. Well, thank you, Ray Rabbits. Thank you, Phil Skaggs. And thank you, Mayor David LeGrand. I got to say, you guys have brought the heat here to progressives in the park. Thank you. Thank you, my friends. I'm standing up here. Michigan Democrats, I'm standing up here with my friends.
Should put any conditions on military aid to Israel on compliance with international humanitarian law.
of course, we should always abide by humanitarian law.
I will continue to fight for the people of Israel.
I personally believe that we need to have dignity for all innocent people in the Middle East. The answer to your question is no.
On the line, and I'm standing up.
Oh no, what? Wait, that last part I did not see before. God, wait, no.
Of Israel.
I personally believe that we need to have dignity for all innocent people in the Middle East. The answer to your question is no.
On the line, and I'm standing up.
That's so funny. That's literally straight out of Veep, dude. God, I'm not kidding when I tell you this. Like, she's grown on me. Like, obviously, I despise her as a politician, but I cannot help but recognize that there's something so folksy and cute about her. She's my favorite folksy war criminal. You know, defender of war crimes. It's the accent. Don't fall for it. No, it literally is the accent. It's not even a joke. It's straight up. I mean, I'll admit it. It literally is the accent. That is what it is. I am a sucker. I'm a sucker. When you can convince me of anything. You can convince me that Haley Stevens is a good person. Like that's what how bad it is for me. Yeah. It's comedic every time I say this is a Michigander. Yeah. Donald is talking about you. Okay, I heard that he's being crazy, dude.
My two beautiful sons sitting there. I think I'm going to give one to myself, one to them, and we'll have a threesome, okay?
I don't even want to know what he was talking about. Hey, yo!
Now, as I see my two beautiful sons sitting there, I think I'm going to give one to myself, one to them, and we'll have a threesome, okay? Now, as I see my two beautiful sons sitting there, I think I'm going to give one to myself, one to them, and we'll have a threesome, okay?
There's so much happening in this. I don't like why are those guys wearing that stuff? Trump speaks at dedication of Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library. Why is he doing this outside of Pride Month? Like, it should be illegal. To say that you want to have I mean, it should be illegal to say that in general. I think that you want to have a threesome with your two adult sons.
Now, as I see my...
He also thought he talked to the real Teddy. Trump 80 seems to believe AI Teddy Roosevelt is real and tells Roosevelt it's an honor to be with him.
The president faces storms most people never see. Keep your nerve and remember the nation comes first. You get through. I know you know that feeling yourself.
Well, I appreciate those words. Those words are fantastic. And
oh my God.
I just want to say it's an honor to be with you today. We are making a little bit of a tour. Some of the fantastic things you've done.
Oh my God. Oh my God. What the fuck is, what the What the hell? Oh my God. Oh my God. Boomers are getting one-shotted by AI, bro. Straight up. I mean, we're watching it. It's incredible. Total Brandonization beyond Brandon. Yeah, no, this is beyond Brandon. I mean, I expect this from Brandon, but I do think it's beyond Brandon. He references talking to him here, x.com. I love that he's just like so chill about it. He's like, we're just, we're here to, I just wanted to thank you for your kind words. It's very obvious that you would love me. You're very much alive. And you're saying I'm a wonderful president. And we like to think you're wonderful too. He's RPing. You forgot about this? I don't think he is, man.
I even had a conversation with Theodore Roosevelt. I said, what did you think about the Panama Canal? Do you consider that your greatest achievement? How do you feel about the fact that the Democrats gave the Panama Canal away to Panama for $1? You know, he built the Panama Canal, preceded really by a man who was actually, he was the tariff king, William McKinley. He was the president, and
I told him I got shot too, and I stood up just like you did. You got shot, I got shot, we both got shot. Only good presidents get shot. That's what I told him, and then he cheered. And it was like nothing ever before. I told him, listen, you're good. Your cousin, not so much. Not so much. Don't like it. He fought on the wrong side of a great war that came after you. He fought on the wrong side. But it's okay. We know he wasn't so good because he couldn't walk. I walk so perfect on the other hand. And you do too. You and I, we both walk. Your cousin, not so much.
they took his name off Mount McKinley, and I put it back on because it deserved it. Put it back on. But McKinley actually, and he was assassinated, but he made tremendous amounts of money, made our country very rich. And then Teddy Roosevelt, as the vice president, got in, and he did some incredible things. But one of them, I think, one of the most amazing, maybe.
He's shilling for AI, man. Stop eating this bait. I actually don't have that much of a problem with like a historical figure having a fucking AI chatbot. I don't know what the big deal is there. I mean, that seems like one of those. That seems like one of those situations where it's not like that big of a deal, you know? You do grow a brain? Wait, really? I mean, please elaborate. Boomer ass take, really? Hire an impersonator? I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you just like, it's just a chatbot, you know, who cares? It's been so many. It's not like I'm talking about like, I don't know, bringing Tupac, holographic Tupac as an AI back to life or something. It's fucking Teddy Roosevelt. You know what I mean? It's been a long enough time. Like, it's fine. The major problem is dumbass like Trump who think the ghost of Teddy Roosevelt is alive in AI. It can hallucinate historical events. Yeah, no, I agree. I am a Luddite, unashamed. I am an unashamed Luddite when it comes to AI usage for the most part, but there is like certain things that I don't think are that crazy. As long as it's like historically accurate, like the Teddy Roosevelt, and as long as they have like proper safeguards on it to make sure that it doesn't start talking about how great Donald Trump is as a president, not dissimilar to me, Teddy Roosevelt. You know, unless it starts fucking doing that shit or hallucinating, then who cares? It's basically a fucking Chuck E. Cheese animatronic. Yeah, man, let the AI chatbots of historical figures speak. Wait, what? Spit out historically incorrect shit? Yeah, dude, that's what I meant. That's what I was talking about. I was like, thank you. Until you have Abe saying, well, slavery actually wasn't that bad. It's easier to program an animatronic or hire someone. I mean, I think you can put those safeguards on, no? So dead inside that I read this and felt nothing. Senator Mitch McConnell was found unconscious when he was rushed to the hospital. I know. A lot of people have been trying to get me to like do the crab rave on this, but you know, I've been there too many times and I don't even care anymore. In my mind, he's already dead. Okay. I think that's what it is. We've seen it. We've seen this happen so many times that like, it just doesn't even matter. Like, did you think Mitch McConnell was alive? When I found out that Mitch McConnell was found unconscious in his home a week and a half ago, I was like, I thought he was dead. Like, I literally had totally forgotten that he is still alive.
You're a genius. I'm the genius. I'm the one that... I'm only kidding. No, I told the story the other day for a first time. A policeman came up to me, a big, strong, good-looking guy, and he said, sir, I want to thank you. He was almost sort of crying. I said, what do you want to talk to me about, officer? He was standing on line. He was watching as I shook hands with people. Some of these people are extremely strong in shaking hands. They break your hand because they're so emotional. Sir, thank you very much. The guy's an NFL offensive lineman. Sir, I'd like to thank you very much. Why? But he came up to me and he said, sir, I was leaving. I want to thank you so much. Why? My 401k is up 84%. My wife was disgusted with me for years. It was just going in the wrong direction. But it's up 84% this year. And I just want to thank you, sir, because it's really helped me with my marriage. My wife is respecting me again. She thought I was an idiot. This is a big, strong guy. But the women, you know the women rule. You know that. We know. All the guys in there, you know. This guy is a big, powerful guy, and he was petrified of his wife. But you know what? He said, my wife now respects me again. She thinks I'm a genius. She thinks I'm Warren Buffett. She thinks I'm one of the greatest investors. But they are up. But everybody in this room, there's not one person here that hasn't been...
Yeah, I don't know about that, man. I don't know about that, big dog. I wouldn't be saying that in a big crowd like this. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's certain things that you can use in your speech to deflect the attention away from the economy, for example. But there's only so much deflection that you can engage in. You know, I feel like this is not one of those things. You can't be talking like this when gas prices are the way they are, you know? He's in Western North Dakota. He's so close to Toby Durden. In South Dakota.
Going up 50, 60, 70, 80%. Your 401ks, you're making a lot of money. Everybody is.
Yeah, Ethan Klein. H3H3 is Ethan Klein. L3L3 is Ethan Klein. Has lost his copyright lawsuit against Denims. He says he plans to appeal and is extremely confident it will be overturned. So that is an interesting update. Ethan Klein claims he will be appealing the ruling on the first claim in his copyright lawsuit against Denims, while once again doxing the person he is suing. We lost the Denims case, but we're appealing. According to the judge, you can react to any piece of copyrighted work in its entirety immediately. I like that he's like now made the judge his op. Like, this is cool. He's like talking about the judge like he's a snarker or some shit. He's like, oh, according to this fucking stupid ass judge, I guess you can watch any movie you want now, according to this judge. Ethan Klein be like, I'm going to sue the judge for being a snarker. Don't interrupt him. You're right. I mean, I've given up. I've given up on being like, hey, man, it's probably best to just not do this. It's probably better to just, you know, preserve what remains of your legacy. You know, you've already ruined it. Why push it further? But I guess He is very Trump coded. I know. I guess he's just, he's done. You can even explicitly state your intentions to steal money and traffic from the original source. This judgment is also in total contradiction to the other judges' ruling in the same district regarding the snark mods. This is not how courts work. You remember how I always used to joke about like the way that people operate on the internet? They'll be like, Your Honor, what about all these other people? Like, that's not how this works in an individual case with an individual decision, right? With one judge, right? Like, you can't just be like, well, in the same district, another judge ruled in my stead against the snark mods. Like, what the fuck do you mean the snark mods? Is that even a copyright case? I don't know. Maybe it is. I haven't really been paying close attention. Very strange behavior from a 40-year-old man with children. But I guess it's going to continue happening until like the rest of the internet, like the commentary sphere, turns around and goes, dude, give it up. Enough. Gucci bag time. Let it go. Let it go, man. Let it go. What are you doing? I'm extremely confident this will be overruled by the appellate courts and we will be proceeding with the appeal immediately. I think he's just literally trying to, he has so much money. He is just trying to advance this. His friend Asmold calls E a patriot for appealing. Asmongold reacts to Ethan Klein deciding to appeal in his lawsuit against Denham's patriot.
Filing and appeal. So we lost the Denham's case, but
dude, can you imagine it, like me doing this to fucking more Pegaslop, for example? We know what they would say, right? We know what they would say. They were like, oh, Hasan can't take criticism at all. But of course, when Ethan is doing it, they're like against, an op, a woman on the internet. It's like, yeah, it's so based.
We are appealing. According to the judge, you can react to any piece of copyrighted work in its entirety immediately upon release, so long as you pause occasionally. You can even explicitly state your intention is to steal money and traffic from the original source. This judgment is also in total contradiction to the other judge's ruling in the same district regarding the snark mods.
You were joking about Pegasus and they lost their shit over it, Lamau? I know.
I'm extremely confident this will be overruled by the appellate courts and we will be proceeding with the appeal. Patriot! Oh man, I love to see it. That's right. That's right, thank God. Yep, there it is. Sounds like a fat.
Could you please say the word epaulette for us real quick? Okay. Why?
100% accept whatever the court finds because I just trust their judgment, their experience, their expertise all the way. So shout out to this wonderful judge.
Asman literally made his career off of this area of law. Yeah, he's so fucking stupid. All he does is react to content. I mean, it doesn't matter. This is win-win for him, right? Like, I assume he doesn't even think at all, but I suspect that if he were to think about this critically, he would realize that this is not going to go anywhere. But if it would, go somewhere, it would destroy his career. It would set a new precedent that would make it so that it's impossible. He restreamed your entire Rokana interview with limited commentary just to use it as an example. He has no self-preservation skills. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Ethan. I'm totally on board with him because, yeah, it's just ridiculous. How the fuck can you go and do that? How can you go and do that and somehow...
How can you go and do that? How can you go and do that?
There isn't something clearly wrong. I mean, yes, obviously there's something that's a female judge confirmed. Well, I don't know really what...
Bro, your audience is so dumb. Oh my God. Female judge confirmed? That's awesome. DI judge, brother. It's got to be so cool to live in this universe where you're like, well, even if it was a male judge, he was behaving like a female, which we hate.
That is, I have no idea at all. So yeah, and shit judges happen. Yeah, Denham's got to the judge. Well, I don't know why they made the ruling. I have no idea. Maybe the judge.
Why are you? Wait, what? So why are you commentating on it like this? I mean, I do this too from time to time, but like, you've spoken about these cases far more than I have. How do you have no understanding of what took place? Like, what? It's very confusing. What's also confusing is like he just refuses to read the court decision, like what the judge's decision is, because, you know, obviously it's not going to favor whatever position he's trying to generate here. But it is very funny that there are just a lot of people out there who are like, no, I want the head empty, no thoughts, ass commentary on this issue as well. FOMOA. Ethan Issue Podcast lost his copyright lawsuit against pro-Palestine content creator Denham's, with the judge citing Klein's own precedent to rule in favor of the defendant. Ethan Klein then doxed her on his IG account and said he's going to appeal. Isn't Issue's whole thing watching and reacting to stuff? How hypocritical must it be to think you have any right to sue someone over something you've also earned money doing? Yeah. Denham's got to the judge. It's awesome. What is this? Hello, Hasan the Home. Would you like me as a wife? That's crazy that you just posted your own tweet with 1 like. That's crazy. That's wild that you did that. Okay. I mean, shoot your shot, queen, I guess. Shooters shoot, I guess. Anyway. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, Wayne Gretzky. Anyway, that stumped me a little bit. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't seem like the internet is on his side, but who knows? I mean, all the fucking slimiest weirdos who are just running on pure hatred are on board. What is this? Did you know Republicans had access to this kind of character model? Kelly Dennison, a 27-year-old Larimer County massage therapist, won the Republican primary to represent Colorado's 2nd congressional district. What the fuck? I don't know anymore, man. Crunchy granola ladies have totally turned at this point.
Judge didn't like Ethan. Maybe they just made a bad decision. Maybe they misunderstood the case, or
you don't wait. I'm sorry. Your cope is that the judge made a bad decision, didn't like Ethan Klein, and misunderstood the case, as opposed to you, guy who just said, I don't really know enough of the details of why the judge decided the way that he did.
What just happened? Yeah, Denham's got to the judge. Well, I don't know why they made the ruling. I have no idea. Maybe the judge didn't like Ethan. Maybe they just made a bad decision. Maybe they misunderstood the case, or maybe their viewpoint just simply is not the same viewpoint that other people have. I'm not sure, but I agree with and I support Ethan, and I hope that Ethan is able to get justice. I think that's what happens. That's what should happen, at least, right?
Huh. I wonder if there's a secret third thing out there, which is that the judge actually did know what he was doing and didn't really care for Ethan Klein one way or another, and was able to issue an impartial decision on pre-existing precedent that Ethan Klein had set with his successful lawsuit that created the boundaries of what we know as fair use. That same liberty that you, Asmongold, and myself, HasanAbi's Piker, enjoy on a daily basis. Perhaps that's the reason why, this happened the way it did. But what the fuck do I know? Probably much better to just... Every time I go into Asmongold's comment section, it's always filled with borderline suicidal weirdos. What is wrong with his audience? If you ruin my hobby, I will ruin your life. Here. So true, brother. Don't mess with a man's hobby, especially when he has hundreds of dollars worth in it. Haha, hundreds, ... I have no life. Don't say that, bro. You have a life, and you're living it now. I guess they call this cope maxing. So that's what it is. That's what's going on here. Just cope maxing. Both probably like 40. I mean, so is Asmongold. What can I say, man? What can anybody say? Asmon supports Ethan. He is pro being allowed to watch other people's content because Ethan won that right for the Twitch scene. Lamau. Yeah, except now Ethan is trying to destroy his own precedent. What is this? Nick Fuentes cannot understand why you have so many followers.
It's way back, I think. Yeah, you got people like Hasan Piker. I don't know how he has such a big following. You know, like he's got like crazy numbers. You know, like why do you think that is? Why do you think people even follow that guy? He's like a performative male. Well, I think the only
Why did he just turn around and look at the camera so hard? That's so weird.
crazy numbers. You know, like why do you think that is? Why do you think people even follow that guy? He's like a performative male. Well, I think the only
Why did he do that? He's like a why did he, he's like a performative male. The fuck happened there, man?
reason he's got a platform is because he's the only one left on Twitch.
This is the ultimate cope. Asmongold is a bigger content creator than me on this fucking platform, man. What is it? That's the sex pestiny cope. Oh, if I was still on Twitch, like I would be the #1 guy, and that's why I'll never end my conquest against them. Hopefully, one day.
You know, it's the same reason why Ben Shapiro used to be the #1 conservative, and you look at that guy and say he's not funny, he's not charming.
Yeah, famously, everyone else got banned off of YouTube. That's why Ben Shapiro was the #1 guy.
He's not charismatic. Why is he so big? Oh, yeah. Every one of his competitors got censored. He was the only one left standing on Facebook and YouTube.
By the way, I don't know who the fuck this dildo is, but between him and Nick Fuentes, I know Nick Fuentes has been deplatformed pretty aggressively, and he's been like prosecuted at times for doing January 6th, obviously. So that's like, you know, fairly valid prosecution, in my opinion. But like nowadays, I'm more prosecuted than he is. Fuck you mean? Bitch, you never got banned from an entire country? Like, what are we talking about? It's so funny. This is always the cope. Even back in the day when I first got on Twitch and I was growing, right? I would get banned all the time because I have a lot of these like fucking weirdo Nazi weirdo neo-Nazi hate watchers. Yes, persecuted, prosecuted. I mean, he was literally prosecuted. I'm being persecuted. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Or maybe even allegedly being prosecuted. Who knows? This is what the fucking federal government, according to Fox News, is saying. But here's the thing. Even back in the day, Trey Rex and all these other guys would always be like, Hasan, you do PG-13 content, you do woke content, you do Disney-style content, you do Disney politics. It's like, bitch, I was getting banned more than everybody else. Like, what are you talking about? Even back then, I would get banned far more than my right-wing counterparts were getting banned. It's so stupid.
Because they banned Alex Jones and Gavin McInnes and that whole like first wave, let's say, of internet creators. And it's the same thing with Hasan Piker. Twitch, you can't say, they consider that like a slur. You can't say, you know, so many things on Twitch.
Dog, you can't even say, well, at the time, you couldn't even say cracker. So Again.
They banned literally everybody. Forget even about right-wing people, just everybody. So I think he's kind of just the last man standing. Right. Wokeness is on its way.
Yeah. They are blaming Obama for Mamdani. Paralyzed Pendant Plug. Thank you for 20 gifted. Nice meeting you, brother. Yeah, that's cool. That's cope. Extra Emily is trying to take your ban throne. Yeah, I saw. She was like driving while looking at chat or something. I saw that. Got your ops huffing copium. I mean, I'll be honest. I would rather have my ops huff copium than like unironically to advocate to assassinate me or to like mass harass any journalist that dares to cover me in any way, shape, or form. Which is apparently what Epstein is now going to do. That's what he said he's going to do. That's his latest meta. Speaking of weirdos, Kick streamer Destiny is now instructing his audience to harass any journalist or content creator who collaborates with Hasan and claims someone is going to die very soon. Somebody's going to die soon in this space, I'm pretty sure, he said. I'm not sure who, but I think it will happen soon. There's literally nowhere else to go at this point. Somebody's going to die soon in this space, I'm pretty sure. Just as a heads up, I am going to be doing some mass harassment campaigns on every single journalist who gives this guy free interviews from now on. In a deranged rant, Destiny praises Asmongold and XQC for having integrity while crying over Pokimane and Philip DeFranco for staying friends with Hasan. Now, what's really interesting about this is, of course, one, the classic case of projection where he will turn around and say Hasan is doing the things that, you know, he's actually doing. Point me to the next journalist that gives him a softball interview, and I will dedicate my entire fan base and weeks of my time to emailing, tweeting, spamming this person off the internet. Actually, I'm sick and tired of people like Hasan the Hun getting a free pass by Twitch and DJ Clancy to openly dox and infinitely harass every single person online that they deem to be unworthy or inferior to them. Every single person who continues to platform his creepy fuck with zero pushback is responsible for him and the disgusting cultish fan base of freaks and abusers that he openly supports and gives credit to. I feel like he's just yelling at a mirror. Okay? It's kind of surreal how much he's like in the first half of the paragraph openly admitting that he is going to continue doing something that he's been doing already. And then in the second half of the paragraph says, I'm doing that. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not actually doing that at all. Also, fuck every single streamer who collaborates with this abusive piece of shit who's too fucking scared or too obsessed with their own clout to ever call him out for it. Besides at XUC and at Asmongold, I'm not sure I've seen a single other creator in the space who has the actual integrity to say literally anything about him. It's just infinite capitulation for people like Pokimane lol. Oops, that was our employee who wrote that whole statement and canceled that episode. Lol. At Ludwig Ogren, we're just co-workers, guys. Law. Philly D, got to make sure to email Hasan and get his side of the story before I publish. Ah ha 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 ha, etc., etc., etc. It's gross how complacent the whole space is with this disgusting freak. Yeah, you definitely sound normal with this rant. I definitely, you know, I definitely come across as like the deranged person here, I think. Also, he's just mad at Philip DeFranco for asking for my side, which is like normal, asking for a comment. I'm dying. They literally did the meme. They did. This isn't the first time he's called on his audience to target Hasan in public. He previously advocated to live track Hasan's location so someone could kill him. His location should be publicly available at all times while he's live streaming. If Dan wants to do something useful and still be a Hasan hater, he should create a track Hasan X account that posts his current location when he's out at protests. Yeah. Strange stuff. He's just crashing out big time because he fucked up his own case and evidence spoilage. Yeah, the thing is, I just don't think he's gonna stop at any point. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to make him stop. I guess like I don't even think he'd stop with a restraining order, honestly. It's been like 7 years at this point, and he's just only gotten sadder and sadder. What is this? Destiny blocked me after I posted these images on his recent thread, reminding him there's no evidence of Hasan doing stuff like this. There's a mountain of evidence he does this. Yeah, honestly, I think you could perfectly justify attacking, killing Hasan IRL for statements like this. Even Nazis weren't this blatant. This is just so far beyond the pale. 3 of my biggest stalkers, if anyone else wants to investigate. And then it's literally doc spins. Like, he's just straight up posting doc spins. Spoiler alert, this person's full doc since he removed the last one. What the fuck? Have I ever posted stuff in here? Full docs public yet? If someone is bored, please relink this person's docs. I am just hardcore doxing anyone I can find information on now. So now their docs are getting posted. Also, if anyone has the full doc, like, he's just like so openly doxing people, both in his own like community as well for opposing him, and just anyone else. Just a heads up, I do not support anyone going after Connor's family, but since Connor's defending people who are making arguments about going against my family and someone might act on that, if someone did go after Connor's family, I think they would see that as fully justified, by the way. And then he turns around and he's like, why am I fucking banned? Do you feel bad for making him go crazy? No, man, I don't. He's a fucking 40-year-old guy. He could just not do any of this shit. It's kind of crazy because, like, he could have just straight up been a cookie cutter neoliberal Democrat. Okay? Instead of spending the last 7 years of his life actively trying to make my life worse. If he just focused all that time, energy, and initiative on, I don't know, focusing on politics, like actually trying to make an impact in the realm of politics, and wasn't such a fucking creepy, narcissistic sex cult leader, and instead genuinely had a vision that he wanted to, you know, enact some sort of change on, he could have been fine. Like, it just stick to fucking debating some of the dumbest mouth-breathing right-wingers, and you would have been fine. Yes, I saw what he posted today, talking about how, you know, he's just, someone's going to die into space soon or something like that. Just like ominous shit. Yeah. The issue with guys like this, he agrees with Asmold that Western culture is superior to Muslims. They've been glazing each other back and forth. Yeah, I know. They all operate off of like one singular thing. I'm the number one op. So even if they supposedly hate one another because like Asmongold is the biggest Trumpy and Destiny is supposed to hate Donald Trump more than anything else, they literally don't mind dropping all of that stuff aside because that's just totally secondary. It's just pure theater for these guys. Politics for them is a game. It's just a game of theater, and it's all just advancing their own personal narcissistic desires. It's a way to like galvanize their audiences to make it seem like their audiences are on board. That their audiences are on board, that their audiences are doing something. Do you think Pokey, Ludwig, or Philip will respond? Fuck no. Are you crazy? You think these guys don't know what both Asmongold and Destiny's audiences do? Why the fuck do you think they're so quiet whenever these guys do insane shit? Their whole dude, it's ironic because Destiny will constantly talk about like how, I'm bullying people. Every single content creator in this space knows exactly how Asmongold operates, knows exactly how Aiden Ross operates, knows exactly how Destiny operates. They literally never talk about these people for that reason. Not because they like agree with them politically or whatever. It's because they're just like fucking terrified of being on the receiving end of, a 7-year smear campaign that I have experienced. Yeah. Everybody else sees the fucking harassment that I receive, and they don't want any part of it. And why should they? I do understand why people would shy away from it.
Anti-Western, I guess, if that makes sense. Because, like,
Destiny explains why he thinks Hasan always loses to Asmongold in their verbal spats on Twitch, especially in this format. Asmongold will always win because Asmongold can engage with the facts more honestly. Hasan is having to fight Asmongold on like 2 or 3 different levels here. I like that Destiny is saying Asmongold will always defeat Hasan because I agree with him that Muslims are an inferior people to the superior Westerners. And it's like, and he's supposed to be this liberal guy. Anyway, Very strange behavior overall. Don't understand it. I feel like there are way more productive things to do. But even like he designed like a whole ground game group, right? DGG. What is it? Digital ground game. And the entire thing, the entire like supposed door knocking operation, canvassing operation is dedicated to shit posting online against Destiny's enemies and like begging them to kill themselves or begging them to debate Destiny and like try to fucking carve out relevance for Destiny. It's like so strange. Can you imagine if I was like redirecting the Democratic Socialists of America to fight against Destiny all the time? If I was like, hey, can we get some DSA accounts to like constantly tweet about Destiny? That would be fucking insane, right? And no one would do that anyway. That would be an insane thing. It's like, be a fucking adult. The fuck's wrong with you? But for so many people, this is their only introduction to politics. Like, there are a lot of people who legitimately think this is the purest expression of politics, especially on the internet, right? This is the only thing they think is, this is what they think is actual politics, which is so strange. Anyway, you're right on Fox now with Francesca. Nice. Yeah, I got bigger and better snarkers to have to worry about. Governor who has stood on a dish pit at 1 a.m. understand about working people in the state that a career politician fundamentally does not.
We understand the pain. We knew from the get-go that we would have to be the campaign that out-hustled everyone, and I think that service industry workers were built different.
She went on to say they're the best and most important thing in any restaurant. Okay. Cute. But her prescription for Wisconsin would lead to the same outcome.
Wait, you're going to shit on someone for working in a fucking dish pit?
Where it's been tried. And that's real
working class rhetoric from Laura.
Of her ilk, she obviously hates traditional America. She can't even bring herself to say the Pledge of Allegiance in state government. Watch.
I could stand for the pledge, led by Representative Canoto.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic.
What is this, bro?
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I see her there in the green skirt. Well, let's remind everyone. Trump won Wisconsin. Hong's commie canard may work in Madison. It may be really cool in Milwaukee, but it's going to turn off working class Dems in the rest of the state. Smart, sensible Democrats, and there are some, see where this is all headed.
Hey, Democrats, you get suckered. This whole democratic socialism thing, it's a loser in a general
Of course,
election.
Donnie Deutsch.
Understand that. You're getting sucked in. 70% say socialism is a good thing. Losing proposition. 70% are against Israel. It's not going to win in a general election. Period. Get that through your dumb democratic skulls.
Dumb skulls, numbskulls, including Illinois Governor Mr. Pritzker, whose entire family fortune, of course, in the hotel business was made because of capitalism. And now he's trying to pretend to throw in with the abolish capitalism crowd. Yeah, after he has his billions. That's going to resonate.
I think what's good is that there are Democrats who are standing up and fighting what Donald Trump is trying to do to raise prices on people. I think those are the people who are winning. So I'm just suggesting that that is the recipe for winning in 2026 and I think beyond.
Now, as usual, Pritzker, who cannot stop businesses from fleeing his state, is spectacularly wrong. The truth is, Mamdani and his political progeny present the greatest opportunity.
I'm not gonna lie, I do appreciate
the late 1970s.
I appreciate DSA's existence for this reason too, because like it just makes these guys so unbelievably open about their pro-capital propaganda.
Because the Mamdani
where it's like business owners are great. If you're poor, you deserve to die. Actually,
have the chance to expand on Trump's success by building an even stronger, broader, multi-ethnic working class coalition. Because in their heart of hearts, they love America. That's why a lot of these folks came to America. They don't want to see it destroyed.
Okay.
So it's time to go on the attack and educate voters about these candidates' true intentions. no ICE, no borders. They're going to open up the country to 8 billion people around the world. They'll kill capitalism. That equals a stock market crash. With mammoth new taxes, mandates, and regulations, by the way, on everyone, not just the billionaires.
Mainstreaming trans
They'll
agenda
mainstream
in
the
schools
trans
and
agenda
beyond.
in schools and
Okay,
beyond.
at least they started doing this thing where they started lying about it. Because, like, for the last couple of weeks, they were just, like, openly saying what the DSA is about, which I think wasn't helping them. Because they would just be like, they want free healthcare. They want to tax the billionaires. And then everyone was like, wait a minute, that's fucking awesome. So now they're like, they want to transgender your daughter.
Maybe all those inmates can come live with him and his lovely wife in Gracie Mansion. So in the end, while all of these pro-Palestinian crusaders and the DSA are having their moment in the big cities, there's just not a big constituency for the nightmare that socialism never fails to create for regular working people. But think about this by contrast, when Republicans were mad at the multinational corporations for outsourcing and doing everything they were doing, terrible globalist policies, what did? We elected Trump, who pushed policies that actually work.
Wait, what? When did he do that?
No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, tariffs on China, tough border policies, and pro-family policies like Trump accounts. So yeah, my prediction is that the DSA crusaders will end up driving sensible Democrats away from the party, and meanwhile, it'll boost Republican turnout in races that we've been covering. In Texas, Paxton is going to beat James God is gender fluid Tallarico. In Maine, Susan Collins will beat Graham, I didn't know it was a Nazi tattoo, Plattner. Others from the DSA will crash and burn as well, eventually. And that's the angle. Here with their analysis is Ari Fleischer, Fox News contributor and former White House press secretary. Mark Meadows, former White House chief of staff during the first Trump administration. Gentlemen, the energy in the Democrat Party obviously is with these new socialists, communists, Bolsheviks, Jacobins, whatever you want to call them. But will a socialist in Denver sink Democrats' chances in a place like Pennsylvania? Ari.
Laura, you nailed it. This is giving Republicans a huge issue that they can run on this year, because they need to turn this race from the historical trend of Republicans or the party in power doesn't do well in a midterm cycle into a referendum on just how bad the Democrats are and how risky it would be. And the ideas you walk people through are the perfect illustrations of those risks. So this is a chance, not only in those states where there are close Senate races where somebody's running against the obvious socialist, Graham Plattner in Maine, for example, called himself a socialist and a communist. But it's a chance for Republicans in other close races across the country to say to people who aren't socialists, what did you do to stand up to the socialists in your party? You sat there silent. You never said a word, and now you're going to caucus with those people. This is a huge ball on the tee for Republicans to whack. And they need it. It's going to be a 50-50 race in both the House and the Senate. Everything's up for grabs. This is a blessing for Republicans to beat these people.
Mark, Rahm Emanuel, who had the same job you had in Obama White House, one of the few Democrats who is being clear about what these people really represent. Watch.
There are candidates out there, specifically like in New York City, who don't like America. There are people in the Democratic Socialist Party who literally do not like America, think it is a bad country. They don't have any identity. And that is not the Democratic Party that I'm a part of. It is not the Democratic Party that struggles to make sure that other people get a chance to be in the winner's circle.
Mark, he's one of the smarter Democrats out there. What is he seeing that Pritzker ain't?
Well, he's very clear-eyed, Laura, but one of the things that we're finding is he is a minority within a minority. He's literally looking at this particular issue and calling it out for what it is. But everybody else is running to embrace Mandami, embrace this communist in Denver. And Ari's right that this presents a great opportunity, but what is more important is that the statewide elections, when you start looking at either having
some
to
of these
distance
candidates,
yourself,
they just get sucked into this wave and are just being called socialists on Fox News for no reason, like Deb Haaland.
What's going to happen
Connie
is
Chen,
that they're
so
actually going to run the other way in states like Pennsylvania that you pointed out. You can't run this far to the left, but it's a great opportunity. Donald Trump started this with a reach out to the hardworking Americans, the union workers. I think you're going to see them coming to the Republican Party, not because the brand is all that great, but because the leadership is willing to embrace them and put the value on work once again.
Yeah, like, Ari, you think of Bashir down there in Kentucky, right? Like, he thinks he has a big future in the Democrat Party with this crowd, you know, as the litmus test. So Bashir thinks, oh, I'm a kind of a middle-of-the-road, sensible Democrat. What does it look like for him? And, of course, Shapiro is speaking out in Pennsylvania, but what does it look like? Where's his lane now?
It looks like silence for him and from him. And that's the problem. All these guys are looking at their lanes, and the only thing they can see is getting flattened. And so they keep silent. Where is the principled Democrat leader who says no to socialism? That simple. No, we won't caucus with you. We don't want your support. We are Democrats. We're not socialists. What's wrong with them saying that? But they won't say it because they're scared to say it, because then they get primaried. And that's the problem. Yeah. You know, they like to say we're a big tent. They're a big tent whose poll has no principles. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, Mark, the Big Tent, they won't even talk to pro-life people who would otherwise identify themselves as Democrats. They essentially ran Kristen Sinema out of town, and they hate John Fetterman. So this isn't about Big Tent. This is about clinging on to whatever shred of power they have left. And I think they're freaking out. I honestly think they don't know what to do. Which end is up? Mark, close it out.
Well, I think they are freaking out, but it's not.
It's never not funny that these Republicans who are supposed to hate the Democratic Party are just like praising all these Democrats now because they're like, well, at least they're not socialists. I thought they were all socialists. I thought we were all communists like Nancy Pelosi.
Socialist in their makeup and in congressional districts. But you pointed out it doesn't play well in Wisconsin. It doesn't play well in Pennsylvania. And it certainly doesn't play well in Texas.
We'll see about that.
And yet what you've got is a Senate candidate that's embracing that. I think you see that he loses by 7 or 8 points when the voting total is done in November.
Collins is going to win by at least 6 points in Maine. This Plattner experiment is going to come crashing down. Ari, Mark, both of you, awesome to see you. Thank you. All right, coming up, stop is in North Dakota. What was the president doing there today on the Freedom Train?